So far I'm not able to speak about the concrete sanctions, but the determination is very strong. I think that depending on the details they will provide to us, we will decide. Maybe, I don't know yet, but maybe there are some open channels for some serious negotiations maybe in Normandy format in next days, and if there are some chances for diplomacy to work in next days, we will surely give the hope to those chances. If not, as you said, also this variant is on the table.
Are you worried, though? Are you worried about these tensions with Russia?
Huge disinformation.
Yes, I'm worried. I'm worried because the military concentration, especially on the Ukrainian borders or border with Russia and Belarus, are very strong. So it's something which which is not normal for regular military exercises. So there is no doubt that Russia is using military power to make a pressure. If only the pressure, then this is the question. In any case, it's good that we are prepared to avoid such kind of surprises we met during the occupation of Crimea.
And Nord Stream also is a blockage of Nord Stream on the table. Are you discussing that with the Germans? What are you telling them about Nord Stream?
Surely, Nord Stream will be mentioned during the first debate regarding the energy situation in Europe. When we will discuss also so-called strategic autonomy, and energy sector is very important part of so-called strategic autonomy, and also then when we will discuss the relations with Russia. Maybe we will get some additional information what's the final decision or what would be the final destination of the Nord Stream 2. But yesterday this was not the main topic.
What about travel restrictions with Corona? Do you think there will be new travel restrictions with the Omicron variant?
Whatever we will do with travel restrictions, I hope we will have a coordinated approach. I think that this is what we need, and this is why we have European Union to coordinate situations in such to coordinate reactions in such situations. And I think we are close to the agreement. Thank you.
Therefore, we have to support, as Europeans, as Democrats, we have to support. in order to hurt the Ukrainian government, and wants to use the, as in not yet opened up Nord Stream 2 route. But it would be important that we could also decide that Nord Stream 2 is on the table. If there is heightened military activity, then this project would be turned off.
Do you think there are a lot of other leaders that have that opinion that this should be on the table?
The discussion, I think, will be very broad, but what is quite clear already is that the leaders of the European Union countries have a very similar understanding of what is going on, understand the aggressive motives and intentions of Russia, and now it's only a discussion of what best to do together with our other partners, our transatlantic partners, to do our utmost to deter this decision of escalating the situation militarily.
And the question on COVID. So the new Omicron variant is causing great concern both with scientists and citizens. Do you think it's time now for Europe to act with more severe measures such as travel restrictions?
I think for Omicron, as for Delta and whatever the next Greek letter will be if the virus mutates again, the best thing we can do is to protect our citizens. So we have vaccinations and booster vaccinations. We now have vaccinations available to younger children. It's very important that people use this opportunity to protect themselves and their families. We have face masks, FFP2 respirators that should be used in public spaces. So in my country, these are being used. It seems that it's becoming more and more common in Europe that we do this. So we protect ourselves. And to shut down the economy is a way to, how should we say, that's a move to inhibit people. We actually want to inhibit the virus, and we cannot have a closed economy forever. So we have to learn to take maximum precautions as individuals and society as a whole so that we can still function as far as possible open economically.
So no travel restrictions intra-Europe?
I think in terms of travel, the best would be broader testing. So vaccination, masks and testing, but not to stop travel as such. Thank you.
Merci. Tout bien. Hein? Dégueulasse, la soupe. Dégueulasse. Ça va mieux aussi. On a déjà passé quelqu'un? Qui? Oui. Non. Pas encore passé? Non. Ah. Parce que j'ai vu l'écran. C'est-à-dire...
il n'est pas passé ici. Après...
C'est pas comme moi. Ah oui. Beaucoup d'expérience. Ouais, c'est important.
Mais il n'y avait pas d'accès. En tout cas, moi, j'ai pas eu accès.
Mon éditeur, il a envoyé des trucs. Voilà, non, c'est pas ouvert. C'est pas porté ici. Dans un autre. Manière, et là, ici, c'est pas pensé, il a porté, il a vu. C'est une autre. C'est pas pensé, non.
Je sais pas à quelle heure c'était parce que c'était prévu.
Il a demandé, c'est pas des photos, c'est pas français.
Oui, mais là, c'est pas pour ça, il y a plus de travail.
This one? This side or the other side? For the interview, we are coming. Prime Minister is coming and we would like to make the interview. Which side to stand, here or there?
Because we recorded now. Je ne sais pas quel ministère. Ma fille, elle parlait. Non, elle parlait plus. Elle parlait avec l'action présidente. Une fois, en fait, elle allait au parc avec un turc, donc elle parlait turc et tout. Et souvent, elle disait ah, mais c'est la petite étrangère et tout. Elle dit non, je suis étrangère, je suis étrangère. Et une fois, Chloé, elle rentre toute seule en Turquie avec les enfants. Sauf que Chloé, elle n'a pas mon nom. Et les enfants, ils ont mon nom. Donc le douanier, il regarde, il comprend pas, il dit... et puis ça va parle au douanier, et elle parle comme une turque, elle fait mais vous êtes turc. Et Clotilde, elle fait yoc, elle dit non, je suis pas turc et tout. Et on est étrangers, et ma fille, elle fait LaVanguardia, LaVanguardia. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire que je suis pas étrangère, je suis pas étrangère. Et le douanier, il commence à dire attends, c'est quoi l'histoire? Donc Flo, elle a engueulé la fille. C'est vrai que la dernière fois que je l'ai vu, je l'ai pas passé à toi, mais par contre, il a fait le rap. C'est vrai? Alors, ça se passe comment? On doit appuyer sur le bouton là.
Szia, azt mondja itt a tanácsi kollégok fölmentek, hogy a szerint felszámálják a elnök úr. Ja, jó, te nem vagy így. Oké, akkor van. Jó, csak a Tiborral. Oké. A Bert is adott vele. Ja, akkor oké. Köszi, hello.
Oui, il y en a certains qui font une... Sinon,
azt mondja, hogy valószínűleg adja. Szerintem igen.
Donc en fait, tout ce qui... Oui, c'est ça. Donc tout ce qui se passe, c'est parce qu'ils vont venir parler. Parce qu'ils ont dit...
Political transition. The
Thank
second
you.
one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the first one was is indeed ecological transition. The second one is digitalization. The third one is social cohesion, territorial cohesion, and as the fourth one, as Olaf and Madalena said. And the fifth one is gender equality. I think it's also very important to include gender equality as a horizontal policy throughout all the plans in our recovery plan.
Thank you very much, Pedro. And we go to Portugal. Antonio, you won 2 general elections in a row. And I know that in January there'll be a third one. And I'm confident that you will win these elections as well. And we will have all the support from our family because you did so much for the citizens of your country. I've been many times in your campaigns, but I know that one thing is essential. You brought back hope for better life in Portugal. And you also took a very important step for our family, for social Europe with the Porto Summit. What are for you the big social challenges in Europe today, and how we Social Democrats should fight to really put Europe on a social track?
Well, thank you very much for your kindly words. Let me welcome Olaf and Magdalena, and allow me to answer in Portuguese, if you don't mind. A dupla transição climática e digital é fundamental garantir que mobiliza toda a sociedade. Há um conjunto de atividades que vão ser descontinuadas, há empregos que têm de ser alterados e é fundamental que não deixemos ninguém para trás. E por isso, termos um forte pilar social é absolutamente fundamental para que todos os europeus se sintam mobilizados e parte integrante deste processo de transição. Foi por isso que organizamos a Cimeira do Porto, foi por isso que com o Nicolás Schmidt aprovámos o plano de ação para o pilar social da União Europeia, de forma a garantir a todos boa formação, bons empregos e garantia social nos momentos de transição. Estes quase 2 anos de Covid demonstraram bem a importância do modelo social europeu. Porque quando todos precisámos de todos, este espírito de solidariedade manifestou-se. Manifestou-se nas medidas de autoproteção, manifestou-se no momento em que testamos, manifestou-se no momento da vacinação, mas manifestou-se também no momento em que adotamos um importante recovery plan para que todos pudéssemos combater a Covid, não só do ponto de vista sanitário, mas também nas suas consequências económicas e nas suas consequências sociais. Isto demonstra bem que a social-democracia tem que estar no coração da Europa, porque só assim nós viveremos solidariamente esta enorme oportunidade de transformação que a transição climática e a transição digital nos oferece para criar empresas mais competitivas, empregos de melhor qualidade e melhorar a prosperidade partilhada na Europa. É esse o grande objetivo do plano do Porto.
Thank you. With my knowledge of Italian, I think I understood everything you said in Portuguese. And again, if we zoom in a little bit, you've explained about how you did your policies now and with the social summit and everything. If you just look a little bit further, 2030, 2040, for also all the young people who are watching around Europe, what is the main thing you think Europe should bring to them?
O plano do Porto tem metas muito concretas. Em primeiro lugar, na formação ao longo da vida. O objetivo de que todos os anos, pelo menos 60% da população ativa participe numa ação de formação. Tem um objetivo muito forte de aumentar a população empregada, 78% em 2030. E tem uma que nos deve mobilizar a todos para a erradicação da pobreza. Eliminar 15 milhões de pobres na Europa e pelo menos 5 milhões de crianças pobres na Europa, de forma a travar esse drama que é a reprodução geracional da pobreza. Todos juntos Nós podemos pôr em ação o plano desenhado pela Comissão, aprovado pelo Conselho, e demonstrar que a Europa é mesmo o continente onde nós podemos ter as políticas mais progressivas, onde podemos liderar a transição climática, onde podemos liderar a transição digital e voltarmos a ter uma economia forte, competitiva e geradora de mais e melhor emprego.
Thank you very much, Antonio. We'll have more opportunities to cheer Antonio and wish him good luck in the elections, in the campaign. Dear Sana, Prime Minister, your government is one of the leaders in gender equality. Tell us more about your experience, how you achieved so much, and how do you see the social democratic governments and our political family as our role for pushing real gender equality and women's rights across Europe and beyond?
Well, thank you so much, and it's so nice to be here and see all of you. Finland has always worked for gender equality. We have worked for decades to make sure that people have the same possibilities in their lives. And there are so many reforms that we have made. Actually, we gave women full political rights, first country in the world, but there's so much more that we have done. The most important thing is that we have built a Nordic welfare society like Sweden, like Denmark, Norway, etc. So this is, of course, the main thing when we look also gender equality. Daycare systems, parental leave systems, of course, education in all levels, from early childhood to adulthood. This is very important. And making sure that people will have all the possibilities also enhances gender equality in many ways. So it's not only that we have women politicians in charge, it's basis that we have built on welfare society that enables people to make sure that they can fulfill their dreams, that they can pursue their dreams in their lives. So I think this is the message that I want to send, that we have to make sure that we are building societies in a way that enables everyone to make their life as they want to make.
Yes, and we've been talking a lot about social policies, climate, economy, things that are going well in Europe. But we also seen a worrying trend in relation to democracy and the rule of law in the Union. So what do you think we should do to defend the rule of law and democracy in Europe?
Well, first of all, as leaders, we have to make sure that every member state of European Union is respecting the fundamental values of European Union. If we give up these values, human rights, rule of law, democracy, freedom of people in Europe, then we are losing the whole European Union. We have to make sure that we are respecting the fundamental rights that European Union was built on. I think later today we will also discuss these issues in European Council. We have discussed these issues also in the past, and I see a very troubling situation in some European countries, Poland, Hungary, but also this is something that is spreading. More conservative voices that are challenging the fundamental values, the fundamental rights of people, and we have to say no to this. We have to say no, and we have to make sure that the future is also progressive, that we will make sure that every European citizen, no matter where they live, if they live in Poland, if they live in Hungary, in Spain, in Portugal, in Finland, the Nordic countries, we have to make sure that every European citizen have the same rights, that every European citizen can live a good life. And this is why we need to make sure that we respect the values that European Union was built on.
Thank you very much, Robert, Prime Minister. I know that your government is ready and willing to heavily invest into climate objectives of the European Union, which is great. But I remember also when we were together with Irace and the whole of S&D group in Malta in September, you stressed especially on the necessity to make this transition just. and to tackle the social consequences. Would you tell us more? How do you see this process and the efforts of your government?
Well, 2050 seems to be a long time away, 28, 29 years from now. So the temptation could easily be that let's take things easy. But what we have to realize is that climate change is with us and that a lot needs to be done. And that the changes which need to be implemented bring along huge challenges with them, and that the positive impacts of these changes take time to be experienced. So I would like to very briefly highlight what we have done till now and what we plan to do as regards the way forward. We started off with a coal-fired power station in Malta. So we used to generate electricity through the use of coal as a fuel. We moved from that to, perhaps it was not the best decision, to the use of heavy fuel oil, another pollutant fuel. Then in 2015, I think we made the major change up till now of shifting to a power station fired by LNG. In parallel with that, we also started purchasing electricity through an interconnector which is connected to Sicily, which is our neighboring island. So that was one of the major changes which we implemented till now. Now we have a major drive in electrifying our private fleet and our public fleet of transport. So in transport, we see the major opportunity which needs to be addressed. So, but as you rightly said, can everyone afford buying an electric car? And the answer is a no. Taking the average price of an electric vehicle, it comes at around 1.5 times the average annual salary of Malta. So what we did in the last national budget, which was announced a few weeks ago, we gave a generous incentive of 12,000 euros for every citizen who takes the plunge and decides to scrap his old ice-powered vehicle and shifts to an electrically powered vehicle. And we're also thinking about other changes, such as a shore-to-ship facility. We've already installed our first facility of that kind. So, as you know, Malta is very much dependent on the maritime transport. We're an island, a small island at the periphery of the Mediterranean, so we definitely depend much on the maritime industry. And the shore-to-ship facility basically allows us to switch off the engines of ships in harbor. Unfortunately, most of maritime vessels up till now are operating on heavy fuel oil, which is a huge pollutant. But that allows us the facility of switching off the engines and generators of these vessels and having the electricity supply being given to them through a shore supply. We're also moving that project now to our commercial port, so we're basically shifting in that direction as well. We're also investing into a €500 million project as a waste-to-energy project. So whereas waste has always been regarded as a minus, we're now seeing waste as basically something which we can use to convert to energy. So rather than seeing waste as a minus, let's use waste as a resource. Other changes which we did were the shift to electric vehicles I've already mentioned, the building sector, which is very crucial in Malta. The building sector is one of the major pillars of our economy. The small size of the island makes land very precious, and it is true that the building industry is the major investment in Malta, or rather one of the major investments. So we're focusing there on changing our building techniques in order to have more energy efficient buildings. But the way forward, we all know that LNG is a clean gas, but it's an intermediate fuel. So the shift has to be to hydrogen and to renewables. And there again, we have our challenges. So people ask me, how come Malta has only 10% of its energy coming from the renewable sector? And I have a very simple reply to that question. Let's take solar panels. So people are asking me, how come an island like Malta, which has basically sunshine on most days of the year, does not have much solar panels? Well, we have a problem with land size. We're limited. So it's either we go and take up agricultural land and install solar panels, or we go offshore. Those are the two options. We're maximizing the limited space which we have. We're also looking now into offshore installations. Same goes with wind power. But coming back to the second part of your question, the social aspect. Let's understand that not everyone can afford to make this transition, And when launching our national budget, we took that in mind, that people still, some people, notwithstanding all the incentives that we give, some people will still not be able to buy their vehicles. So what we did was, as of next year, we're giving free public transport to all. I believe we're the second European member state to have that, apart from Luxembourg. And there, basically, we're giving the same opportunities for all to be able to make this transition.
Thank you so much. And because of the time, and you all need to go to the European Council later, we also have our common candidate still giving a keynote speech, and we need to take a family photo. We would like to ask you, just really short, 10 seconds, Olaf, can you say something to support our next election campaign in Portugal for Antonio and Magdalena and everybody on stage? What can we say to support Antonio?
Yes, I can. And I will, which is much more important. He is doing a very, very good job, and he gets a lot of support from the people of Portugal, which we see when we are there. And I really loved being in Portugal and discussing with Antonio and his friends about the political strategies of the country. So I'm absolutely confident that he will be successful in this campaign again. But the more important message is there is again a time for social democratic policies in Europe and in the world. And it's about the aspects of the life of peoples. And this is mostly the question of respect and a good future, and you're dealing with it. And so I'm absolutely confident that you will be successful in your campaign, and Magdalena as well. She is doing a good job. We know each other as finance ministers, and now we are the leaders of the country, and we are doing our job with all these experiences.
Great. And Pedro, because you are unlucky without a microphone,
well,
maybe you can say
yes, of course, I will be very glad.
Also.
Well, I admire Antonio. He's a very good friend. I would say that Antonio has leader skills. First one, I think Antonio has a lot of empathy, which is crucial nowadays, especially for progressives. And secondly, he's always looking and working for an agreement. He's a great negotiator. So I think it's the leader that Portugal and Europe needs.
Thank you. Okay. Let us thank our prime ministers and the Bundeschancellor. I'm not getting tired to repeat it. I really enjoy it. And give a big ovation to Antonio, who is the first one to face elections next year.
And can I please invite all the speakers of today from the panels to join us for a family photo?
Please keep your masks on, and then...
When you walk, you can have your mask on. When you stand down, we can take it off once you're at your place.
Paulo was on the side.
we please put the video in
He's
now?
back.
Can we have the video? There should play the video now.
Thank
Come on,
you.
people. Jesus Christ. Okay.
That's good,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. We will be.
Thank
talking
you
a
very
bit.
Humankind faces enormous challenges. Each challenge is an opportunity to rethink our common future, to fight selfish interests, and to stand up for everyone's rights. Europe and the world need a fresh start based on social justice and solidarity, on political power for those on the margins, on well-being, and on inclusion. Through better public services and public health care, and with an economy that serves the people, an economy that cares about the people's prosperity and their health. Through being mindful of the environment and leading our economies towards sustainability, through a green transition that is also socially just, protecting the planet and the value of work. This is our history as socialists and Democrats, a legacy of progress and a drive to shape the future. Let's do it together again. Let's build a humane future.
Thank you.
We can ask everybody to take this.
Yes, thank you.
Again, please, can we ask you to take your seat again? Everybody, can we please take your seat again? Okay, we're still on air, so we will start the next part of our show today. And I'm very honored to introduce our PES Common Candidate and Executive Vice President of the European Commission, Franz Timmermans.
Good morning, everyone. I'll try and get you through this initial depression you get after having seen all the leaders on stage and after still coming to terms with the fact that the Chancellor of Germany is a member of our family, which I think is extremely good news. I think we're in a good position to jointly start shaping the future for our children and grandchildren. I'm reminded of the fact that if you want to honor the future, as Camus has written, you need to act in the present. I would add to that, if you want to honor the legacy of those who came before us and who created this powerful movement 150 years ago, you need to act in the present. Acting in the present means preparing for the future. And the one issue that will determine the future of Europe, of the world, and of social democracy is whether we are capable of forming this transformational age into a fair and just society. That is the essential question, my friends, we are facing. Because we are in an age of profound change, of potentially disruptive change. This is tectonic change. This is not just incremental change. This is something that will affect all relations in all societies across the planet. And this is only comparable, in my view, to the first industrial revolution, which in fact is the mother of our movement. Because the first industrial revolution created a proletariat that could not fend for itself and that needed to get organized so that the equality of people was not just an idea, but became something tangible. And we are at risk in this industrial revolution of again creating a proletariat that would not be able to fend for itself because other powers are too strong. So the age-old premise of politics is back. Politics, at the end of the day, is about one thing and one thing only: redistribution. How do you organize political power in such a way that you are able to redistribute everything we have collectively in a way that is seen as fair, that is seen as just, that is seen as giving everyone the opportunity to use their full potential, that is manifestly seen as protecting the vulnerable, that is manifestly seen as making those who can afford it contribute more than those who cannot. This is the question of our age. And our planet that can no longer sustain the way we are living needs to feel the effects of us understanding that we need to live within its limits. And to live within its limits in a socially fair way means redistribution. And I want to end on something I believe is essential. There is a risk that we create an opposition between, on the one hand, the need to live sustainable lives and to change our way of living to make sure we lead sustainable lives, and on the other hand, to create a socially fair society. There are attempts out there by the populists and right-wing populists to pretend that to act for the climate is to act against social rights. The opposite is true, my friends. The ones who will pay the highest price if we don't act on the climate are the most vulnerable in our society. And if we are not able, to prove with facts and policies that we will protect the most vulnerable in our society, society will not support our shift to a sustainable future. So these things are interlinked. It's just going to be social or it's just not going to happen. That's my basic line. And the ones who can be trusted with making this society a fair society are the Social Democrats. That is our legacy, starting in the first industrial revolution. That is our plight today, to make sure that we prove to society that there is such a thing as a fair transition to a sustainable society. That is what we need to prove. There's a Flemish writer called David van Rijbroek, brilliant man. And he cornered the concept, which I find very compelling, of us acting like colonialists in time. We colonize the future of our children and grandchildren if we don't make sure that we prepare our planet for a sustainable future. In other words, if we keep spending the future instead of investing into the future, we leave our children and grandchildren a barren earth. But if we start transforming our society so that in the future we can live sustainable lives, we don't colonize the future, we promote the future, and we think of the interest of our children and grandchildren just as much as our grandparents thought of our interests after the Second World War. It's our legacy, it is our present, it is our future. Let's make it happen.
Thank you, Franz.
Thank you very much, Franz, for this very, very inspiring speech, and which is part of the introduction to our first panel of our discussion. But before that, we have a little video clip introducing also in image the debate that we will have in a second.
Catastrophic floods, forest fires, extreme weather. We can no longer pretend that nothing is happening. We can no longer ignore climate change. We must plan the transition into greener societies, and we must get everyone on board to support it through real financial support. No one must lose from taking climate action, because 1.5 degrees is all we have left.
Our European Green Deal can provide a future that offers both social protection and opportunities.
It won't be easy, but we will do it together as we've always done. The green transition must be effectively implemented through regional policies, supporting all those affected and investing on equality. We, the European Socialists and Social Democrats, will continue to follow our profound commitment to social justice.
Yes, so for this first panel for a sustainable future, I'm very pleased to invite our speakers to come on the stage with Mr. Paolo Gentiloni, European Commissioner. Please, Paolo, come on stage. Also, Madame Anne Hidalgo, candidate for the presidential election in France. Madame Hidalgo, rejoignez-nous. Enrico Letta, the leader of the PD Italy, and Paul Magnette, le leader du Parti Socialiste ici en Belgique. Merci Paul, merci Enrico, Anne and Paolo de nous rejoindre sur le podium. Merci.
Welcome, Paolo. You can take off your mask if you want to speak, because we're standing now still.
Voila.
Voila. You were very instrumental in creating the next generation EU. And now it's there. We really want to hear from you on what's next for our sustainable recovery.
Well, good morning. Indeed, I think we should be proud of what was done by the European institutions and governments. As Olaf just said, the fact is that the impact of these decisions came even before their implementation, because this was a message that we are reacting together, and that for the first time we are using our common finance for common purposes. Extraordinary decision. But now the point is, what are we looking for? Are we only looking for a rebound in our growth to go back to the previous level of growth? I don't think that this was a golden age for our economies. So the point is, if you are able with these plans and with other initiatives to bring to Europe a durable and sustainable growth, we will not be satisfied with only a rebound. I think we are on the right track, but the challenges are there. Franz just said how the climate challenge is important. And indeed, we will need a lot of money in the next years, a lot of private investments, a lot of space for public investments. We will discuss our fiscal rules, but we can't imagine that the climate transition will be only for countries with fiscal space, as we say. So the fiscal initiative will be very important to guarantee all member states in Europe the chance to have this fair and green transition. So very good until now, but quite challenging what we have ahead of us, and the role of the Socialists and Democrats will be key, of course, because nobody is, as we are, capable to stress the importance of growth, sustainable growth, and fair growth. We have a good achievement, we should be proud, but we have a long way to go in the next couple of years, and maybe more.
Yes, indeed. And you touched upon it already a little bit on the fiscal justice, which also goes with it, and Europeans, they are angry about it. You're also a front runner, a fighter for fiscal justice. Can you tell us a little bit more about this as well? In the context of the sustainable growth.
Again, it was, I think, a good year, and the result of the change in Washington. I think that Biden was absolutely crucial to make possible this global agreement on minimal taxation. And this will be a gigantic step forward in fighting tax avoidance, tax evasion. We will take other decisions in this direction, but the important is that we have a global agreement, and we have it because of the Biden administration, and also because, again, we could be proud of this, we were able to reach unanimity among European member states to support this. And unanimity is always difficult to reach. So I think also this is a good step forward. We can't accept the idea that in these difficult times we don't have revenues from taxation and we are not able to address the social challenges because of tax evasion and tax avoidance and of corporate tax evasion and tax avoidance. I think this will be a good step forward. Always big global crises change global rules. It happened after the war. It will happen after the pandemic. We will have new global rules, and I hope better global rules after the pandemic.
Thank you, and we will support you in your fights in this,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Merci Paolo, et il est encore évidemment important de souligner le rôle essentiel que tu as joué dans tous ces combats en tant que commissaire. Encore bravo et merci.
Grazie.
Je me tourne vers Madame Hidalgo. Anne, bienvenue parmi nous pour ce débat sur une Europe soutenable, la Sustainable Future for Europe. Alors, je vous pose une question, vous, en tant que candidate à l'élection présidentielle en France, sur quelles priorités voulez-vous que l'Europe se focalise dans les jours, dans les mois, dans les années à venir?
First of all, I'm very happy to be here and very proud because I think that this family, the Social Democrat family, is in the right vision for Europe and in all our country, also in this right vision, and for this transition, green transition and fair transition. I think we need to be committed with the worker class, and we need to put new policies for this fair transitions. Et donc, je vais poursuivre en français, mais je crois vraiment que ce qui aujourd'hui est attendu de l'Europe, et en félicitant tous ces gouvernements sociaux-démocrates et une commission qui s'inspire beaucoup de cette social-démocratie, c'est-à-dire de cette vision juste, équilibrée, entre ce que nous devons faire sur le plan économique pour maintenir une prospérité sur notre continent, en tenant compte bien sûr de cet impact crucial qu'est le changement climatique, mais évidemment une vision équilibrée qui considère que ça ne peut pas se faire sur le dos des classes moyennes et des catégories populaires. Et donc nous devons, et je suis très inspirée par le document que les sociaux-démocrates européens ont travaillé, ce document qui est la grande transformation que vous aviez présenté à Paris il y a quelques semaines et qui contient tous ces éléments-là. Il nous faut aujourd'hui penser la transition juste sur le plan de notamment toutes ces industries carbonées qui vont être confrontées à ce changement. Je pense au secteur automobile, je pense au secteur de l'aéronautique, je pense à l'agriculture européenne. Je pense aussi, par exemple, à ces secteurs nouveaux qui, eux, ne vont pas être impactés négativement, mais qui vont connaître des croissances très fortes parce que ce sont, par exemple, les secteurs liés aux énergies renouvelables. Sur cette vision de l'évolution de notre modèle économique européen et du fait qu'on va trouver de la prospérité en sortant de cette économie carbonée et en allant vers les énergies renouvelables, il nous faut maintenant mettre en place les politiques d'accompagnement pour les travailleurs de ces secteurs. Ça veut dire, et permettez-moi de prendre cette référence, dans les années 80, il y avait notamment au niveau européen, sous l'impulsion de Jacques Delors, avec cette idée de l'Europe sociale, et je regarde Enrico, il y avait cette idée de mettre en place des outils d'accompagnement de la transformation économique. À l'époque, c'était quoi? C'était la sidérurgie, la métallurgie, la chimie, qui étaient des secteurs en pleine évolution. Et on avait des outils européens, je pense bien sûr aux fonds structurels, au Fonds social européen, qui ont accompagné de façon très active, avec des politiques actives, la formation des travailleurs de ces secteurs-là, et qui ont temporisé et servi de matelas de protection pour les travailleurs qui étaient à la fin de leur vie professionnelle. Il y avait ces outils-là qu'il va nous falloir retrouver. Au niveau européen, je sais que les syndicats, et notamment la CES, depuis longtemps, a obtenu la création de ce fonds d'accompagnement social de la transition écologique. Je pense qu'il va falloir lui donner beaucoup plus de force, et ça c'est le rôle évidemment de la Commission européenne et du Parlement européen. Et il faut ensuite que dans chaque pays, nous puissions décliner des politiques qui accompagnent ces transformations pour les travailleurs. Je crois que c'est notre rôle. C'est là que nous devons être, nous les socialistes, les sociodémocrates, au niveau européen et dans chaque pays. Et le fait d'avoir tous ces gouvernements aujourd'hui sociodémocrates à l'échelle européenne, avec en plus l'arrivée du chancelier Olaf Scholz, c'est une chance inouïe. Alors nous, qui sommes encore en train de nous battre durement, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui aimeraient que la social-démocratie n'existe plus, je le vois par exemple en France, nous qui sommes en train de nous battre, nous nous appuyons beaucoup sur cet exemple européen, parce que c'est le chemin juste, soutenable à tout point de vue, y compris du point de vue de la cohésion sociale de nos pays et donc de la cohésion sociale de l'Europe, à laquelle bien sûr nous croyons et dans laquelle je me sens pleinement engagée.
Merci. Alors, bien évidemment, nous vous soutenons dans vos combats. Alors, vous avez beaucoup œuvré contre les inégalités. On sait que les inégalités liées au réchauffement climatique sont croissantes. Alors, pour vous, quels sont les outils les plus importants à mettre en place pour pouvoir promouvoir la justice sociale dans le cadre du combat écologique?
Je crois qu'il faut vraiment penser les deux politiques en même temps, c'est-à-dire ne pas simplement penser, ce qui serait déjà beaucoup, le changement climatique et l'évolution des secteurs, fixer le cap. Il faut que l'Europe fixe un cap très clair sur les énergies renouvelables, il faut que l'Europe fixe un cap très clair sur la décarbonation, la préservation des ressources et de la biodiversité, mais exactement dans le même temps qu'elle mette en place ces outils pour accompagner notamment, bien sûr, les changements du côté des travailleurs par de la formation. Il nous faut des politiques actives en matière de formation et d'emploi pour tous ces travailleurs. Et il nous faut aussi des aides qui sont, ou des politiques de soutien qui sont, par exemple, l'accompagnement de ces nouveaux marchés liés aux énergies nouvelles. Par exemple, secteur automobile qui va vers l'électrification ou vers aussi, on le voit, l'hydrogène, qui sont les deux énergies aujourd'hui utilisées dans ce secteur, enfin en tous les cas pour l'avenir. On voit bien qu'il y a un besoin d'infrastructures très important dans tous les pays. Si on veut aller vers un modèle de mobilité électrique, il y a un besoin d'infrastructures, par exemple en France, pour permettre les recharges de ces véhicules. Ça, c'est un sujet industriel à part entière qui doit être porté par chacun des pays, mais qui peut aussi être porté à l'échelle européenne. J'ai une proposition notamment à faire dans ce sens-là au niveau européen. Je pense qu'il devrait y avoir la création d'une sorte de commissariat aux énergies renouvelables à l'échelle européenne, qui devrait être l'endroit où se décident les moyens, les investissements tellement importants, tellement puissants dont on a besoin pour justement impulser à l'échelle de notre continent ces énergies renouvelables. Je pense que comme nous avons su le faire en mettant en place des grands outils industriels autour de Ariane, autour de, voilà, de grands projets qui sont des projets moteurs pour l'Europe, nous devons sans doute aussi mettre là, en appui concret du Green Deal, mettre par exemple en place un commissariat européen aux énergies renouvelables qui donne cette impulsion et qui permette aussi à chacun des pays d'avancer ensemble. Bien sûr, dans une concurrence qui existe parce qu'il y a un marché intérieur qui est concurrentiel, mais aussi en tenant compte de ce qui se passe à l'extérieur de nos frontières et de la concurrence très très forte qu'il va y avoir sur ces marchés des énergies renouvelables, notamment vis-à-vis de la Chine ou vis-à-vis des États-Unis. Je pense que l'Europe pourrait aussi se doter de cet outil qui serait un outil au service de notre vision, de cette transition écologique vers des énergies renouvelables qui doit se faire de façon très rapide et puissante, mais aussi au service d'une vision juste de cette transformation écologique.
Merci.
Merci Anne. Merci beaucoup. Benvenuto Enrico. Very nice to have you here. During this panel on the sustainable future, we cannot ignore the COP26, of course, because it was also Franz, we mentioned it before, who led the European Union towards the deal. We had Paul there as a guest in Glasgow as well. But Italy co-hosted the COP26. And what do you think were the best achievements of the COP, and what needs to be still done?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the organization of this big event. It's a great emotion, I have to say, to be here. COP26 was, I think, we have to apply as usual the glass game on the COP26. I don't think that we can say the glass was full empty, even half empty. I think the discussion about the results of the COP26 are discussions where we have to be very strong by saying that deception and then saying that some ideas on the future of Europe, on the future of the world, on the future of decarbonization weren't there completely satisfied, and we were far from the good result that we expected. So I have to say that for what I think the most important problematic point there, it is the fact that, and this is the point as Europeans, last year in July when we discussed and we approved Next Generation EU, I think it was a very good political point because we decided to overlap Green New Deal and recovery. And recovery with Green New Deal was, I think, the right idea. It would have been possible to have whatever it takes in terms of recovery without any carbon neutrality goals. The key point is that we decided to have politically this goal, but I think there's a big fatigue in applying concrete measures in which the 2 points, and social justice and a sustainable ecological future, can be really applied in the concrete political life and in concrete day-by-day life. I see what Anne did in Paris as mayor. I was used to live in Paris. I was citizen of Anne's city for 7 years, and I know what they did and the fantastic achievements they had in Paris. But I have to say, even in my country, where I see how important today is for our political party to be very accountable on this point. I was very happy because in the last poll, for the first time for many years, we had a very good results among young people. More than 30% of young people are today our supporters, and that's for us the big result. It is also because of these policies, but my red alarm is about the fact that we are not managing to apply and to implement how to get together social justice and sustainable future. We did, I think, and I see Nicolas Schmidt and Nicolas and the Commission did a fantastic work last week. I think the big signals that arrived from the Commission are very important. What Paolo is doing on the financial and the sustainability and stability pact future is another important step. But I have to say, and I stop here, my point is that for all our family, it is very important to put this challenge at the very heart of our activity. If we don't succeed in putting the idea of what are in concrete the measures in which social justice and sustainable and climate change, fight against climate change, how does it mean in terms of transition for workers in the automotive sector and the rest? Otherwise, it would be a disaster, and we will lose, because a salary of the people and daily life for the people is, for us, the first need, and this is why I think this need has to be our big challenge for the future.
Thank you. But before we go to Paul, I don't want you to stop here completely, because we have to mention that PD had electoral successes recently in Torino, Bologna, Milano, Roma, Napoli, which was fantastic. But what do you think it is that the citizens of those cities drew to the green transition policies of PD, that they gave you the trust?
I think the most important part was the link that we were very good in proposing between our policies for urban and for cities and the recovery plan at European level. Because I think we are supporting this government. Draghi's government is doing very well in Italy with our support. We are the pillars of the government. And the government is succeeding in trying to put the right missions within the recovery plan. And the first mission is sustainable transition and digital transition. And the country, Italy, is a country where we live at two speeds, as you know, south and north. And the big problem was, and it is, the digitalization for the south of the country, the remote areas, and for big cities, how to have infrastructures and transports in common that are able to be to put green in the daily life of citizens in these cities. So I think the big result was to be perceived by citizens and voters as those thinking that the future of our country has to be green with social justice. And the recovery plan was, on that point, I think, the key issue. And citizens are today giving trust to our job, and for us, we will continue in that direction.
Yeah, and we can all learn a lesson from that. Thank you.
Yes, hello, Paul. Bonjour, Paul. You are the leader of the Parti Socialiste. You were member of minister in the federal government, and you have been developing a concept of ecosocialism, which is combining the fight against climate injustice, but also fighting against climate inequalities and equalities in general. So can you tell us how you want to develop that concept of ecosocialism?
Well, thank you, Yonek, and thank you, everyone. It's a very, it's a great pleasure to see you again, that we meet again. Thank you, Sergei, for organizing this meeting despite the COVID regulations. We need meetings, we need to have discussions, we need the enthusiasm, and we need to celebrate the victory of our friends everywhere in Europe. So, why eco-socialism? Because we all know, and thank you to Franz for his very inspiring introductory speech, we all know that we will have to change everything. We will have to change the way we live, the way we inhabit the world, the way we eat, the way we move, the way we work. And the question is not, do we need to do it, but how we will do it, and how we will make sure that it will be fair and it will contribute to the fight against inequality. And when we look at the answers of the other political forces, we see on the one hand we have the conservative and the liberals. And what do they say? They say, well, let's leave it to the market. The market is the most efficient instrument. And may the best men and women win. Of course, we cannot accept that. We cannot accept this law of the jungle that would only make poor people poorer and richer people richer. What do the Greens say? Well, when you look at accurately at what the Greens actually say, it's not that different from what the liberals say. The Greens say, let's do what we need to do. Let's take all the norms, all the decisions that need to be taken to curb emissions. And then, well, we know that this will have negative consequences for some people, so we will have to compensate for those people. But that's not enough. We must not only compensate, as Anne and as Enrico just said, we need to take measures which at the same time curb emissions and reduce inequalities. We need more electric cars, of course, but we also need free buses, as many European cities, in France notably, as Malta. I'm very proud that with the socialist prime minister in Malta we'll do it, and like Luxembourg, Nicolas does it under influence of the socialists in Luxembourg too. We need organic food, but not just for those who can afford it. We need free lunches in the school for our children. That will improve their health and that will support local agriculture. We need norms to isolate buildings, but not just norms. We also need to build more social housing. It's become impossible for many people in many cities, and we need to get inspired by Vienna, for example, and our friends from Austria, to see how we can build social housing and reduce emissions at the same time. So, as Franz said, let's be proud. Let's be proud of our history. Let's be proud of our legacy, and let's assert that this is not just a part of the past, this is a vision for the present, this is a vision for the future. It will either be social or not happen. It will either be the vision that we as social democrats bear, or it will not happen. Let's be proud of our solutions.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, you are the mayor of Charleroi. The Parti Socialiste is in the government in Wallonia, in Brussels, also in the federal government. So a big responsibility. So what do you think are the biggest challenges in order to ensure social fairness and to reduce inequalities, and it is reflected in climate policies?
Well, the challenges are everywhere. Anne mentioned, as she was right to mention, the industrial transition and this professional transition that we need to organize. I come from a city, from a region where the decline of the steel industry, the decline of the coal industry has produced incredible long-term consequences on the society, and we need to anticipate that. We need, of course, I just gave a few examples in terms of buildings, in terms of food, in terms of mobility and that kind of things. But we should not forget the fiscal dimension, which is absolutely crucial. And I'm the strongest supporter for all what Paolo is trying to do within the European Commission and what our ministers are trying to do in the framework of the Council. Because what do we see here in Europe? We see that every year we lose hundreds of billions of euros because of fiscal fraud. We see very rich people and multinationals who don't pay their tax. This is not acceptable. What do we see? The richest people always richer. The recent international report on inequality in the world has been published a few days ago. What does it show? The last 25 years, the richest 1%, they captured more than 40% of the growth. So 1% of the global population captured 40% of the growth produced by the workers here in Europe too. And what do we see in the same report? That these same 1% of the richest people, they produce more gas emissions than the 50 poorest persons of the global population. We have half the world on the one side, 1% rich people on the other side, and these 1% people are more responsible than half the world. This is not acceptable. This must stop. Basta. And so the answer is very, very simple. Let's tax the rich. They must pay their fair share, and that we must have the means to curb inequalities in Europe. And we, the Social Democrats, are the only ones who can do that.
Thank you.
Basta. Thank you very much, Paul. So thank you very much to all speakers for this very, very interesting panel. Your interesting contribution too. So we'll continue the fight together on the different challenges that you mentioned. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Enrico. Thank you, Paul.
Super.
And we have a video to announce the next subject and the next panel. Thank you.
What does the word well-being make you think of? We believe well-being is education and culture. We believe individual development and social harmony are well-being. A society where everyone can pursue their projects and cooperate with others, that's well-being. Non-discrimination is well-being. Public universal health care is well-being. We must promote a European health policy based on universal access. We must implement and enforce progressive taxation to finance these services. Well-being means being able to lead a decent life. Well-being is to make opportunities accessible for everyone. The time has come to build the Europe people are asking for. And European socialists and Democrats are the ones to do it.
So now, in order to introduce the second topic, the second panel, which is about fair chances, a Europe of fair chances, I'm very glad to welcome on stage the leader, the president of our parliamentary group in the European Parliament, the S&D group, Irache. Irache, be welcome. And again, congratulations for your re-election as leader of the group. Well done. And we are very glad to have this wonderful cooperation, the group, S&D group, PES, commissioner, and all our ministers and prime ministers, and the good work that we are doing, and especially the leadership that you are showing in the European Parliament. So, Irache, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonek. Dear friends, dear colleagues, it is a pleasure for me to be here today with all of you in this year's Best Council. As a president of the S&D Group, I'm delighted to see how the progressive family is making a step forward for our movement for Europe and for its citizens. Yes, for citizens, for their well-being and their chance to have a better and fairer life. Unfortunately, our council comes in the hardest of time. We are still fighting the pandemic and its consequences, economic and social ones, and also inequalities. But I am sure that we will defeat this crisis together. It's important to do it together. Our main goal now is to overcome the effects of the pandemic, and this will require a big effort in almost all policies areas. At the same time, the Union must not lose sight on the climate emergency, growing inequalities, the digital transformation, and the Union's relationship with citizens. Unfortunately, as you know so very well, we also have to tackle the worsening of the rule of law and the new wave of populism and nationalism. The European Union, acting together against the pandemic, have shown again that it can make a difference to protect the living condition of people. Thanks to our efforts and the leadership of our political family, we push for a fundamental change in the European response toward the COVID-19 crisis. We push for a decisive agreement and political actions that have put the EU in the direction of the recovery. The response to this crisis is very different from the response given in the past. We cannot stop now. Austerity times are over. We should pay attention that the economic institutions are saying, like the International Monetary Fund. They are calling for a stronger fiscal response to the crisis. And now these institutions are finally joining our political family on our claims to go beyond the DGP logic. Yes, people's life and the environment should be placed at the forefront of public policies. Fiscal rules should exist to serve the people and their lives, and not the opposite. This change of model only acknowledges that we are in the right direction. We need to explore a new windows of opportunity. It is possible to respect the system in which our societies operate in a way that will guarantee human progress in our planet, without exploiting workers and without witness how the few become richer and the many have less opportunities. Sustainable well-being, including ecological, health and social progress, fair fiscal rules, stronger democracies, gender equality, and the LGBTIQ rights must be at the heart of how we shape the future. The recovery needs to be seen as an opportunity to introduce different reforms. We need to focus on good and fair reforms, those based on the ecological transition, solidarity, social justice, equality, high-quality public service, and employment. Dear colleagues, the European Green Deal and the Pillar of Social Rights are our roadmap for a more sustainable model where ecological, social, and economic indicators have the same level of importance. We need to embrace this opportunity in the context of the recovery to push for this model that improves living standards for all people. To do so, our group, S&D in the European Parliament, and our political family has a clear strategy of some policies that will be crucial. We need to change the European semester, including these social and ecological criteria. We need the implementation of the Green Deal and the adoption with the Fit for 55 package of the leadership of Franz Timmermans, taking into account the social dimension, always thinking in this social dimension. The social pillar must be strengthened. We have to push for more initiatives in this area, like a directive against poverty or other important issues for us. I can see our colleague Agnes, who are working for this minimum wages and for other important policies in this moment to implement the social rights pillars. We need to tackle the unemployment, of course, and its social consequences. But we have to work not only to create employment, we need to create a good employment, employment with rights, employment that can guarantee to disappear the gap between the salaries with men and women. We need to improve our current system. We must to fight against gender inequality. We need concrete proposals to implement the recent present in the EU gender equality strategy. We have our dear Sita, our president of the PES Women, and our commissioner Helen Daly working in a very good cooperation with all of us. Really, we are leading the gender policies, and we need to keep this leadership in a good cooperation, because it's so important. It's one of our priorities. Finally, we cannot speak seriously about a social Europe if we don't speak about how to finance. In order to avoid undermining the economic recovery and to reach the goals of the European Green Deal and those the social pillar, we will need to invest more and better. With growing challenges, the EU needs to strengthen our budget by collecting new own resources. It's so important for us, and we can be done by targeting tax evaders, speculators, and big polluters. Dear friends, before giving the floor to the panelists, let me add one last thought. We need ambition to seize the momentum and deliver in our commitment to improve people's life, because we are here for that, to improve people's life. If we continue doing so, I'm sure that our political family will lead a progressive and pro-European alliance for a fairer future. This is the time to show that the European Union is a crucial part of the answer. Our families should remain united and coordinated in all levels. The global challenges for a fairer society and well-being, all of us need global answer. Climate change, digitalization, social justice, a state of democracy, women's rights, decent jobs, and youth opportunities. If we are together, if we work together, I'm sure that we will do it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Edache. Thank you. Yes, we are also sure that we will win, and thanks also for reminding how central the fight for social Europe has been in our family, and it still is, and will always be. And it's a good transition for our second panel, and I'm glad to welcome on stage Nicola Schmidt, our Social Rights and Jobs Commissioner. Welcome, Nicolas. Also, Pamela Rendi-Wagner, the leader of the SPO Austria. Alexis Tsipras, which is with us. Hi, Alexis, welcome. Leader of Syriza, and Alicia Holmes, the president of YES, the Young European Socialists. Alicia, please join us. MEP. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome, Nicolas. You can take off your mask if you want to. Yeah. Yes, you did it. Well, welcome, Mr. Social Europe. Together with the European Pillar of Social Rights, the Porto Summit, you've brought some groundbreaking initiatives for this Commission. We talked about it before already. Extra rights for platform workers, minimum wage. Can you please tell us a little bit more about all your work on this?
Well, you know that that's not the work of one person. That's always the work of a strong movement of strong persons. And I must say, a lot has been made possible thanks to our prime ministers. Stefan Löfven was there when in Göteborg when we adopted the social pillar, and our friend Antonio organized the Porto Summit. And this gave a real drive to social Europe and made my task a bit easier. And I think that what we have felt, and I like very much what Olaf has said about respect and really listening to the concerns of our citizens and making policies which really go to the concerns of our policies. And what are the concerns of our citizens? They are about wages, and wages have stagnated. Even in some countries, they have been reduced dramatically. And we had to give a message, well, wages are at the basis of our society, of our economy, of the dignity of work. And that's why we launched our political family the idea of a minimum wage, or at least fair minimum wages in Europe. And we are not too far away from this objective. I think we got it very well in the Parliament, thanks to Agnes. We got it in the Council, and I think there is margin for improvement there, but we will get it there too. So thanks also to Germany, by the way. And I think this is a big achievement, a big message for all the workers in Europe, that wages are important, that we have to respect all jobs, and everybody has to have a decent life from his or her work. And I think this is a big achievement of our family.
It is, indeed. But despite the big achievements, and despite of your work and everybody else in the Council, in the Parliament, nationally, Paul already mentioned it a bit before, social inequality remains a huge problem in our societies. So how can we tackle this?
Well, I think very concretely also. You have mentioned before what we have proposed now on platform work. And this is finally this new approach that we have always a reduction of social rights. This is the neoliberal approach. For years has been the neoliberal approach. We have to reduce the social rights, social benefits, salaries, and so on. And I think we have to rebuild this. And we cannot allow that the new economy, the new business models, new technologies finally not lead us to more progress, to more equality, to better living conditions, but to less social rights, to less equality, to more inequality. And I think this is a big issue for our family. We have to restore the social contract in our societies. And therefore, I think first we proposed and got a guarantee for children. I think a child guarantee. This is essential. We are talking about a fair chances for everybody. But this starts with early childhood. If early childhood children are already, their inequalities are just not even taken into account, we cannot build a more equal society. So I think childhood is a key. Second, good jobs. I think Irache said it's not just about jobs, it's about quality jobs. And we have to make sure that this big transformation we are in now guarantees quality jobs, good jobs, fair wages, good working conditions. That's what we have to do. And third, I think this has been very eloquently said by Paul, this is about taxation, it's about redistribution in our society. We need a strong welfare state. We have to rebuild it sometimes. We have seen how weaknesses have appeared during this pandemic, and we have seen how essential, how key a strong welfare state is in our society, especially in a period of big changes, especially in a period of crisis and like the one we are going through. So I think here Europe can inspire. We will come up with a proposal on minimum income, but at the end it's good jobs, good wages, fair chances, good education systems, the opportunity for workers to be reskilled in a period where the labor market are a lot changing. So that's what this commission tries to do.
Thank you for your hard work on that.
Thank you, Nicolas, and of course we support you, and it's really a pleasure always to work with you also on this issue in our ministerial networks and all the coordination that we do. So now, Pamela, thank you for being with us. We have seen the turmoil in which Austria has been recently, and we really hope that you're going to be the next Chancellor of Austria,
yes,
because Austria would really deserve a Chancellor like you. Now, we have seen also, unfortunately, the crisis, the health crisis through Europe with the COVID-19 pandemic. So in this age, what do you think that how can we defend healthcare systems for everyone in Europe today?
Well, first of all, thanks for your wishes, which I take home with a great gratitude and strength here from Brussels home to Vienna. Well, I think, first of all, let me also thank for gathering today. It's very important for us Social Democrats in Europe, because it's such important times politically, and so much has happened during the last 21 months of pandemic. And it's good to discuss and to fill up our strength in order to go home and build a better and stronger Europe. Referring to your question, this pandemic has shown us so clearly how much not only our health, but our security and how our welfare as such depends on strong, well-funded and well-organized healthcare systems. And when I talk about healthcare systems, we talk about well-educated, trained personnel. And it's this personnel who is in the front line since 21 months, working for all of us, all across the continent, all over the world, worldwide. And we talk about hospital beds, we talk about intensive care units, which need to be equipped technically with the right staff and opportunities, which is not the case all over Europe. So seeing this dependency, we have also to remind people and ourselves that it was us Social Democrats, who always defended for centuries this universal health care against much protest, against much resistance of other parties, the liberals, the conservatives who wanted shortcuts all over this healthcare system. Now we are happy to have enough hospital beds in Austria, in the intensive care units, and so on and so forth, and that it's well funded. Yes, we have great challenges ahead of all of us, but at the same time we have great opportunities. And I think when it comes to health, and I'm a doctor in my original profession, and when it comes to health, I think we need to focus on 4 issues in Europe. We need to fund and finance healthcare systems in future even more. Even more. This is the lesson learned from this pandemic all over Europe. Second, I think we need to invest also in our healthcare personnel. We need better working conditions for the healthcare workers who are on their limits. They're reaching their limits since months. So this is very important. We have to guarantee that every European citizen has access to universal health care across Europe. This is another lesson learned, and we have to be better prepared for future crises in Europe. We have to install a mechanism all over Europe which enables us to react more quickly, faster and more effectively
together against future pandemics, against future crises, health crises, because after the pandemic will be before the next pandemic. The next virus is just waiting around the corner. This is for true. And I think if we do this with united forces, we can and will make a big contribution for a better Europe, a better future, a better health in Europe. And this is the right answer. And I think the European citizens, since the last 10 years, they have had so many crises, starting with the financial crisis more than 10 years ago, and now it's the corona crisis, then we had the refugee crisis in between. And what we see is that they have one big demand and wish, the population. They want more social security. They want more stability. And the only answers who are the right ones to these demands of the population is the social democratic answers. And the people trust more and more our answers. And that's why I'm convinced that, yeah, social democracy is back in Europe. And this past council today is one proof of it.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Pamela. And it's good also to show this moment for social democracy in Europe altogether today. So as we have said, and as you have said also yourself, the pandemic has widened the gap between rich and poor in our continent, unfortunately. It has also limited equal opportunities. Or how do you think that we should tackle this now together?
Yeah, the problems following this health pandemic, they are huge. And in particular, socially, in the social field, they are huge. And we see that the social gradient is increasing the last months all over Europe and also on other continents. And why is that? It's because this crisis has generated far too many losers, but at the same time, don't forget, it also generated and still generates few winners. And we not only have to talk about the losers, we have to talk about the winners, because it's all about justice. When we talk about financing, budgeting, how to pay our bills in the future, our welfare systems, we have to talk about the winners. And we have talked already on the panels before about these winners. I'm talking about the international online companies who are making the biggest profit in their company history due to this pandemic. On the other side, they don't pay taxes into our welfare systems in Europe. And something is wrong in the system, and we have to change it. We have to take this opportunity now in this pandemic to change this injustice. And the answer is fair taxation across Europe. The answer is avoiding tax fraud. The answer is avoiding tax evasion. So we have to take this opportunity. It's a window of opportunity we Social Democrats need to take in order to mention and to put this on the political agenda in Europe, not only in our countries, in Europe. Because the central question within the next weeks and months and years will be who is paying the bill for this huge cost of pandemic? Is it the supermarket staff? Is it the healthcare workers? Is it the single moms who are struggling around already financially and socially? Is it the working class? So we have to answer this. And there is an answer, introducing tax justice now. And this needs to be done very, very urgently. This is the answer to this pandemic and to the injustice which is already in place for years, far too long. Because we have to prevent one thing, that the health pandemic is turning into a pandemic of poverty. And the risk is there, and it is us to prevent it.
Thank you. Thank you, Pamela. Very interesting to hear from you. Welcome, Alexis. Very nice to see you here again in Brussels. Pamela already touched upon the subject, crisis from a few years ago, the financial crisis. You had to deal with it, as we know, as Prime Minister a lot. But how do you see now the progressive turn in the Commission and the turn in supporting the economy and jobs?
Yes, I think it is very positive, this progressive turn, as you said. But the crucial question is if these positive steps will be temporary steps and at the end of the road, or the beginning of a new era for Europe? This is the crucial question. And I want to say that I'm feeling that the health crisis has vindicated our social ideas. And now even liberals recognize that the so-called trickle-down economics never worked. Even liberals recognize that without support, without financing healthcare system, we will never overcome the crisis. Without this huge support of state support of the economy, we'll never come back to positive growth rates. So I think that nowadays that our ideas have been vindicated, it's crucial to support the idea that these steps will have a continuation. And first of all, I think that we have to make sure that the conservative forces, we have not allowed the conservative forces to come us back to the same recipes of the past, to the recipes of deficits, of austerity, of surpluses, of austerity, and of recession. And I want to underline that the green and digital transition is a very important opportunity for Europe. But our duty is to make sure that this transition will be a fair transition. That means without increasing of inequalities, but a fair transition that will strengthen Europe, strengthen convergence, and decreasing inequalities. And I think that all progressive forces will have to answer concretely in these crucial questions.
Yeah, and speaking about a bit more concretely, because of the progressive forces in the Commission, in the Council, in the Parliament, there's also a new debate on the Stability and Growth Pact. So what would be your suggestions for the proposals on that subject?
The discussion about the Stability Pact and the question about the Stability Pact, I think that is the $1 million question. So we have to be more concrete on that. And I think that we have to be more decisive on that issue and thinking out of the box. Because it is clear that the Stability Pact didn't work even in the normal conditions. It was not credible, but even efficient. Now, in the conditions of the pandemic and of the energy crisis, I think that we have to think out of the box and we have to replace the Stability Pact into a pact of sustainable growth and social convergence. That means revise the debt and deficit criteria, and secondly, including into the criteria social figures concerning with inequalities, unemployment, poverty. Second, I think that we need an economic adjustment mechanism in order not only to reduce budget deficits of the South, but also to limiting budget surpluses of the North, if we want to have an economic symmetry and to have our economies to be resilient into crisis. The third thing, I think that we need a gold rule, let's say, in order to exempt fiscal spendings, especially public spendings, a golden rule in order to exempt public spendings, especially spendings for that contributes to productivity, to expand this appendix of the calculation, from the calculation of the budget deficit. I think that this is crucial. And this is crucial not only for the time of crisis, but also it is crucial if you want a Europe of convergence and growth. And the last thing, I think that this very significant tool, the RRF, must be not temporary but permanent tool in order to support our efforts for a Europe of growth and convergence. This is some ideas. Of course, it could be more ideas than that, but I think that progressive forces must be coordinated on a line of decisive ideas in order to change the rules if we want to change our lives in Europe.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, and I'm turning to Alicia Holmes, the president of YES, the Young European Socialist. Alicia, you're also an MEP, member of the European Parliament. So Alicia, you know well the situation of young people in Europe, also with all the member organizations that counts YES, and we know, and you have seen that young people have been among the most suffering of the crisis since the outcome and the outbreak of the pandemic crisis. So what do you think are the solutions? What are young people expecting for the COVID situation now and for a post-COVID world?
Well, thank you, Jonek, for giving me the floor, and thanks to PS for always giving these kind of spaces to the young European socialists to raise our voices. So as you well mentioned, this period has been extremely difficult for young people, and so it was during the whole last decade, because we are the double crisis generations. We are still young, and we suffered the crisis of the financial crisis of 2008, and now we are in the COVID crisis. So when the pandemic broke out, we were still coping this austerity that was from the 2008 crisis, and the COVID has made evident a reality that is really hard for us, and is that young people and young workers are trapped in precarity. So moreover, the COVID-19 crisis has also added new problems to young people, such as the mental health issues that even they existed before, now they are more evident than ever. So it's something that we really need to take care of it. Therefore, if the system that we have right now is failing to ensure opportunities for young people to build their own future, their own life project, we have to change this system. And we need this great shift that the progressive society documents talk about, and a new economic paradigm with the social well-being of people at the center. So this is the expectations of young people. If the system is not working, we need to change it, and they are really asking for a big change. So in Europe, from my point of view, this means that the European Union has to evolve from an economic union to a social union, and we need the expansion of the pillar of social rights with some key measures, such as the strengthening of the youth guarantee or the deployment of the child guarantee. So there is a lot of work to do, but I hope that we all together we can achieve it.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. As you mentioned, our family, our political family, has been really fighting for young people's rights and to defend their cause. I mean, there has been many policies that has been developed. I'm talking about the youth guarantee already a few years ago, but that was strengthened now and enlarged, and being long-term and a good situation for young people. We have also the child guarantee that is now a project, but we have many other policies. We were just talking about a new directive on platform workers, because we know that many of these workers are young people, and that, to quote somebody, young people on a bike is not an entrepreneur, and he needs to have his rights and to be protected and full access to social protections. But you, as young people, what do you think are the policies that now should be developed for young people to be able to develop their future and to have the future they want?
Well, I think that the first thing that we need to do, and also because of the COVID-19 pandemic, is that young people must be at the center of the recovery by giving a multidimensional and comprehensive response to this crisis. So we need to be in the center because as we were in the past crisis, we are the ones suffering the most this new crisis again. Another point that we need to raise is talking about employment, that we are also in a difficult situation, let's say. We need to create quality and sustainable jobs and promote the stable contracts by taking advantage of the potential offers and the green and digital transitions. It's really important that we are not left behind during these transitions. Also, we are fighting, and we need to fight for young people to have decent wages and access to social protection. And one thing that for me is really important, and I'm not just as president of the Young European Socialists, but also as MEP working in the Ample Committee, is the ban of unpaid traineeships and the introduction of a framework with a clear and binding quality standards for all offers provided by the Youth Guarantee. So I think that we need to stop this problem that we are living of working as a trainee and getting non-salary for it, and we are doing also a job. So I think it's something that we need to fight for it. And also, just to end up with, I mean, we have many policies that we need to work for, but also talking about housing, we need to be to have affordable prices to get these houses and to be able to emancipate ourselves. Also wages and minimum income schemes, and also as I mentioned before, the mental health as a priority, as a policy priority, because we have seen the numbers are really worrying of young people that are suiciding are deciding to end with their lives. Is really worrying at European level and in every country level. So we need to put more efforts in order to stop this problem also of mental health.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Thank you. And you were saying at the beginning, thanks for the PS to give you this opportunity, but I would say thanks to you and thanks to the young people of YES and of the Young European Socialists to be so active in the PS. And I think that you are doing a wonderful job trying to fight for young people's rights here in Europe, defending young people in all our resolutions, pushing to have always more, because it's very important to provide to all young Europeans a future, the future they deserve, and you are doing a wonderful job. So thank you also, Alicia, for that. Thank you. So, thank you to all the panelists, and now we will move. Thank you, Nicola, thank you, Pamela, thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Alicia, and we will move to the next panel. The next panel will be for a Europe of respect, and we have also a little video introducing the discussion. Thank you.
Human rights are not simply nice words. There is no democracy without them. There is no democracy whenever there's discrimination, exploitation, or abuse. There is no democracy without the broad and active participation of all citizens. No one must be pushed away from society. No gender or ethnic or religious group, and regardless of one's background or sexual orientation. Women must have a louder voice. Women must get their fair share of political and economic power. Equal pay for equal work is our guiding principle, and it must become a reality. Human rights must become a reality.
Thank you. So now we want to welcome on stage Commissioner Helena Dalli, the new elected leader in Greece, Nikos Androulakis, Tanya Fayon, and Katerina Varley.
Yes. Very good. Yes, Well, thank you, everybody. I'm very pleased to have the panelists with us for a very important and timely debate, the debate about Europe of respect, as we have seen in the little clip introduction. So I would first turn to Commissioner Elena Dalli, and again, congratulating you for all the good job that you are doing and fighting for equality in Europe. So you are the Commissioner responsible for combating discrimination, promoting inclusion and equality in the EU. So can you explain how Socialists and Democrats are actively contributing to that objective at the EU level?
Well, as a political family, my portfolio is a very, very important aspect. It's one of the raison d'etre of our family, of socialists and Democrats. And what we are doing together with the rest of the commissioners and together with you who offer so much ideas and guide and policy direction in where we have to get in this union of equality, which is of the essence for all the people living in the European Union. So practically, then, what are we doing? We have launched 5 strategies, as you know, a gender equality strategy, an LGBTIQ equality strategy, an anti-racism action plan, a disability rights strategy, a Roma inclusion strategy. So as you can see, these are all strategies giving direction to member states in where we want to go in order to eliminate discrimination, because discrimination hinders people from reaching their full potential. With discrimination, we lose a lot of talent because people cannot develop and pursue their paths. So there isn't only the moral argument of fairness, but also the economic argument of losing up on talent because we are discriminating. So the effects of what we are doing are far-reaching in our societies, and also to particular people who have hitherto, who have up to now, been discriminated against. Then we saw in the feature here, equal pay for equal work. That is an area whereby we have presented a proposal for a directive on pay transparency, because you cannot have equal pay for equal work if there isn't transparency in how people are being paid. And we know what the gender pay gap is, we know what the pensions gap is, and so we are talking about figures here, not a gut feeling about maybe thinking that women are being underpaid, but we have the data to show us that. So that is also another area which we are working in, and all this shows us how much still needs to be done in order to have social justice, in order to have equality, in order to have fairness in our societies, which we don't have. And the president, when she was making up the commission with commissioners, felt there was the need for a commissioner for equality because of all this, because a lot still needs to be done. So I thank the S&D group for their continuous support and ideas, critique also, which is important. And together, as a family, I think we should continue, we will continue to work to push for this progressive agenda.
Thank you very much, Elena. I have to say that we are very proud to be part of this European political family and you introducing this pay transparency directive. Because here in Europe, in the 21st century, it's only justice that women are paid equally to men, and that we succeed to eradicate the gender pay gap and the gender pension gap. So really, congratulations for the good work that you are doing. But unfortunately, there is also another issue that is not pleasant at all, another element here in Europe, which is gender-based violence. And that's also something that our family is standing up to fight against, to make sure that in Europe, every woman can live freely without fear. So please tell us the actions that you are taking also to eradicate this in Europe, the gender-based violence.
Yes, this is a serious problem all over the world. We know that 1 in 3 women at some point in their lives have been victims of gender-based violence. This family has been very vocal here. I see Zita Gurmai here, who is always speaking about and pushing for this issue, and Sergei also. So it's important that we have your support on this, on what we are doing in this area of policy. Violence against women is a scourge in all of our societies, and it has effects on other areas of our lives as well. And when we speak about, for instance, the employment gap, of having more women in the labor market, that will also act towards affecting people who can fall victims to domestic violence and to gender-based violence. Because if you are financially dependent on your abuser, there is less chance that you will get away from that relationship. So it's really all connected. It's not just legislation on gender-based violence that we have to take care of, but also we have to see that we close this gap which we have of women in the labor market. And obviously related to this, there is work-life balance, the work-life balance directive, because it's not always out of choice that women are not in the labor market, but it's because of family responsibilities as well. So governments must look at this and have structures to support women in the labor market. But to come to your question on what are we doing on gender-based violence, we just presented an initiative on extending the Eurocrimes to hate crime and hate speech. We know that there's a lot of, it's actually hate speech and hate crime have really risen exponentially during the pandemic, especially when more people are online, and there's a lot of violence going on in there, and sometimes it also has a chilling effect on women who decide not to be online because of this violence. So that is one initiative which we are taking. We are also working on legislation which we should be presenting by the beginning of this coming year, a directive on gender-based violence, which will be for all of European Union. So we know that every country, every member state has its own legislation, but we are working now on something which is for all of the European Union. As you know, we have not managed to ratify the Istanbul Convention, which is a very important convention. There are 6 member states who have not ratified, and therefore we are not in a position yet to ratify this convention as a European Union. So parallel to this, parallel to still trying to have this convention ratified, we shall be presenting our own legislation.
Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you for the excellent work that you are doing, and clearly this is a fight that we will continue to do together. So thank you, Elena.
And then welcome, Nikos. Many congratulations on your election of the new leader of Kinima Lagis PASOK. I hope I pronounced it well. Only 4 days ago. And especially congratulations on mobilizing so many young people to vote. That is really something inspiring, we must say. You're also a member of the European Parliament and Vice Chair of the Subcommittee of Security and Defence. So we're changing a little bit the subject to that. How do you see the future of the European security policy and the new challenges that we're facing?
First, thanks a lot for the invitation, because it's my first time in a press meeting as president of PASOK. Now on the topic, a few years ago, talking about European Defence Union was almost a science fiction scenario. Global challenges and the US decision to move its interest from Europe to the Pacific made clear to us and to everybody in Europe that we have to make more to defend ourselves. In recent years, we haven't taken many steps. First, including the European Defence Fund, and second, the decision to create a force of 5,000 troops. But the biggest issue we are facing is the opposing interest of the member states. There is no point having a common army if we cannot agree how to use it. A very good example is the export of arms to third countries. Last year, we tabled, as socialists, my proposal for an arms embargo on Turkey following its policy to violate the sovereign rights of Cyprus and Greece. The amendment was adopted with a very big majority, but nothing changed in our policy. Many member states, including some with socialist governments, such as Spain, and I'm very unhappy for this, continue to export arms to Turkey, which could be used against two member states. This, of course, for us is unacceptable. The strategic compass, which is under discussion right now, has a potential to be the game changer, as it can create a roadmap on how to develop a common understanding. During the years of economic crisis, Greece never reduced the defense budget, so for us, the creation of a common European foreign and defense policy is a question of solidarity. Only if we act together can we succeed.
Thank you, thank you. And now going back to your home country, Greece, where you are newly elected leader. A subject that we really haven't touched upon today yet, migration. You are one of the countries in the front line in the question of migration and asylum. Commissioner Ylva Johansson from our family is pushing all the time for a new pact on these issues. What is your view as a Greek on this situation?
Look, it is regrettable that 6 years after the migratory and the refugee crisis of 2015, we still have in place a failed system, a real failed system, like Dublin regulation. Right now, the common European asylum system is neither common nor European. Countries like Greece, Italy, Spain, Malta, we have the same problems, as you know. And we have to do more things, because we're facing the problem every day with many difficulties. We need to change the system because it's not sustainable. The proposal for the new pact is better than the current situation, but not as radical as we want. We all understand that it is a compromise, of course, but once again, our countries are the only ones facing the problem because of the rule of the country of the first arrival. The things are very difficult. As long as this rule remains in place, we cannot talk about a fair system. In the previous term, the European Parliament had proposed the abolition of the first country rule, and unfortunately, the Council never prepared its position. I hope that we will not make the same mistake. And the proposal is for me a good base, a very good base, to start the negotiation quicker. We need to have an obligatory system of resettlement, take into account the unemployment rate, population of course, GDP, and other economic data in every member state. When refugees arrive at our door, their application should not be made to the first country, but to the European Union as a whole. We need to take advantage of the growing presence of socialist governments. Now we have more power in the Council and work with other progressive forces like Macron to have a system we can work better in the future.
Yes, I think the last word has not been said on this subject, and I think the word respect comes in mind, solidarity, humanity. So I think we have to keep on working on that very much.
So thank you very much, and I'm turning to next speaker, Tanja Fajon. Tanja, hello. You are a member of the European Parliament. You are also the leader of SD Slovenia, and hopefully also the next Prime Minister of Slovenia. So welcome. Welcome with us, Tanja. We would be very glad to see that, especially when we see the current situation in your country. Now, we would like and to have the discussion with you about the EU role to ensure the respect and the protection of rule of law in the current context. We know that it's not easy in Europe, the protection of rule of law, and especially the independence of the judiciary. So if you could tell us your priorities in this matter.
Thank you, Yonik. Thank you, colleagues and friends. It's good to be here. We are discussing one of the most challenging topics, I would say, of today's European Union. Throughout the COVID pandemic and previous crisis, I think we are losing what is the strategic interest of our integration project: solidarity, equality, democracy, and the rule of law. And we have more and more countries in Europe that are deteriorating in our basic European values. This discussion comes very well in time. Unfortunate, today we have in the European Parliament a vote on the resolution on the rule of law and fundamental rights in Slovenia. And this is something I deeply regret, because my country, Slovenia, was always and it is a very great supporter of European values, and we have a big potential and knowledge. But what I see in the last 10-20 years that I'm dealing closely with European policies, we don't have strong institutions or strong political leaders, or even better, strong instruments to fight against those regimes. I'm not speaking about the citizens, but the regimes that are breaking fundamental values. Look at to Hungary, look at to Poland, look at nowadays to Slovenia. Now we are for years discussing what can we do. Political parties, families are protecting each other, people are losing trust, and now I think the only last resort we have is that we have to apply the law on the rule of law mechanism for conditionality. It's a last resort. But if we will really not defend our basic fundamental values, we risk, on one hand, to lose our citizens, which is happening. There is a big gap or a big confidence, lack of confidence, between policies and the citizens on the other side. We are losing as politicians, and we are losing also our integration project. People are not believing us. And I see that as a biggest challenge in the coming elections everywhere. The lack of trust between policies and citizens. In Slovenia, we'll have next year a historic election. People want to see change, but we will be deciding whether we go to restore democracy or we will go to autocracy. And this is a danger. And if we allow that all around Europe, we as leaders, and don't react and don't make pressures, then we are going to lose it. And progressive forces are front runners on defending equality, solidarity, democracy. So coming back to our core of why the EU was based upon on our core values. We have to come back and restore them.
Thank you, Tanya. And you have been mentioning the situation in your country, Slovenia, and the recent, over the past months, unfortunate, worrying and concerning declaration of Prime Minister Janez Janša that really we are in disagreement with. But how do you see this situation, and do you see an authoritarian turn in Slovenia, in your country? And how do you want, or how do you think that we should combat that in your country, but also in other member states?
I see several challenges. First of all is when politicians start breaking the constitution or the rules, legislation. This is happening in my country. And this was what we were warning also as European politicians. Once you start politically interfering in the judiciary, non-appointment of 2 European prosecutors, now in the state prosecution we have the same case, cutting the budget. This is the way forward to politically interfere in the judiciary. That's the same what we were observing years ago maybe in Hungary. Then the political interference of the government in the press agency, public press agency, state agency. Same is now happening with a public broadcast. Political interference, cutting the budget, and appointing people that are having no expertise. So this is breaking the legislation. The other is when mainstream politicians, responsible public person, are using a very negative discourse, rhetorics, hate speech, lies, discreditation. And here I mostly blame our Prime Minister, because he is offending everyone and limiting freedom of speech. Everyone that is critically thinking and expressing the view that is maybe different. And he is limiting NGOs, civil societies, I mentioned main systems of the country, judiciary, freedom of media, rule of law, policy. I mean, this is, I think, a biggest challenge for Slovenia. Just to conclude, because I don't want to be pessimistic, because pessimism doesn't resolve the problems. We have to be optimistic. We have to give optimism to our citizens. Slovenia is now finishing its presidency of the Council of EU. It's a great opportunity. And I have to say that at least on a technical level, our administrative work has been running smoothly. We were good brokers, we were negotiating well, there were not big expectations, but we did it well. But unfortunately, this big cloud stayed over this presidency because of the acts of the Prime Minister that in fact was discrediting many of us even standing here, and we have to fight against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Yes. We remember that first meeting the Commission had with the Prime Minister of Slovenia. That was appalling, to be honest. Welcome, Katerina Varley. Very nice to have you here. Vice President of the European Parliament, Member of Parliament, and of course, former Justice Minister in Germany, and a true fighter for the rule of law. So we continue on this subject that Tanya already spoke about. So what do you think that the European Union, and more specifically us as progressive parties, can do to fight this, to fight these right-wing regimes, governments who really show lack of the rule of law?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation and for organizing this beautiful event and for dedicating so much time to the rule of law. Because I think when we talk about respect, we really have to come back to our values. I was very grateful for Sana to say it this morning. It's the basis of everything, and if we lose that, we lose the European Union. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware how high the danger actually is. When we look at Hungary, I personally keep saying it is not a democracy anymore. These are very harsh words, but they are true. We have for more than 10 years seen how Viktor Orban, slice by slice, cut democracy down. And I have to make it short. I know that the time is limited, so I just want to try to give an image not only has he made the media, the judiciary, just about anything dependent of himself and his friends and family, but also he has implemented rules that actually he can't lose elections anymore. He has reformed election law, I think several hundred times. So with less than 50% of the votes, he gained a 2/3 majority, which allowed him to change just about everything, especially the constitution. Now that is one. Next year we will see elections in Hungary. It is very uncertain if the opposition can win, and of course we will support them wherever we can. But even if they win, he has introduced mechanisms that his people will stay in all the important places, because you need a 2/3 majority in parliament to get them out. You have to name a successor with a 2/3 majority to get them out. Now, please think of changes in the election system. The opposition will never get a 2/3 majority, so they will stay. Then he has secured that he will still get the money by all sorts of mechanisms that I can't describe now. And now comes the last brick in this wall. Even if he loses the election, there is a body that has, it's called a budget committee, something like it. They have to approve the budget. If they don't do that twice, the president can dissolve the parliament and there will be new elections. Now imagine who sits in there, and imagine how can you replace these 3 guys with a 2/3 majority in parliament. So this government, this man, Viktor Orban, has designed this country in a way that it is his personal property. Not talking about corruption now, but it is his personal property, and he will not seize power. And democracy is power limited in time. So this is not a democratic system anymore, and we have to say that clearly, because the European Union has been watching this. This has not happened overnight. The European Union has been watching this for 11 years, and they have not done enough. Why not? Because Viktor Orban and his Fidesz were part of the conservative family, let's name it. And they have watched the same development going on for 5-6 years now in Poland, and they're watching it in Slovenia. So we have to step up, and we have introduced this mechanism that Tanya was talking about. We can cut fundings, and it seems that money in the end is what interests them the most. So let's do that, and we can make use of the recovery fund, hold it back. We already see little changes in Poland and Hungary because of that. It's sad that we have to do that, but it's the only way that we can get by.
True. And thank you so much for your always fight everywhere, whether it's in the parliament, in the media. We're very proud of that. And we started all the panels today early this morning with celebrating, of course, a new chancellor of Germany. You happen to be a member of that party, the SPD. And the main topic of the campaign of Olaf Scholz of SPD, you were part of it as well, was respect. So can you, just to wrap up the thematic panels of today, a little bit with which lessons are drawn from that campaigning for a Europe of respect that we can all learn from in the next elections?
That's an honor to wrap up all the panels. Well, I think it's what unites us as socialists and social democrats, is that we put ourselves in the shoes of just average people. And that we know that we are the ones who have to stand for them, and to make it very concrete. So people nowadays tend to feel insecure because so many developments are going on in the world, globalization and climate change and all these economic troubles, and then COVID-19, etc. So people do feel insecure, and they need us to show them that we see them, that we see their needs, and very concrete needs: jobs, childcare, their discrimination also. We see the people who just want to lead a decent life, and I think that is the point. We also have to adapt our language. Sometimes we talk about even digitalization, decarbonization, and la 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 la. People don't understand what we mean. So we really have to talk like people talk. and show them that we see them and that we are there to support them. And that is the basis of everything. And it's what holds us together as a political family, and that's why it's so lovely to be here with you all.
Thank you very much. And I think these are inspiring words for the next months to come. Yes, Jon,
Thank you very much, Katerina. It was very inspiring and a perfect wrap-up, I would say, of the discussion that we had this morning. So let me again thank all the panelists that have been with us for this very important and timely debate about Europe of respect. So thank you very much again. And we're going to move then to the following steps of our PS Council 2021. And the next step to be discussed, actually, it's about the PES resolution. So again, I would like to thank all the speakers that have been here this morning, the Prime Minister, the Commissioners, the party leader, because all in all, in the different panels and with their intervention, they introduced also the debate of our resolution. It's about the different values that we share, equality, justice, fairness, but also the principle of sustainability and of respect. And our resolution is a resolution entitled A Progressive Vision for the Future of Europe. And it's, I have to say, it's a rather long document. I'm very proud of the work that we've been doing in the preparation of that document with all our PES internal party bodies, and I would like to thank here the member of the coordination team, of the presidency, on all the different thematic networks that have been so involved in the preparation of this document that, as you have heard, is tackling really the different core issue of Europe today: quality jobs, workers' rights, healthcare for all, the just and fair transition, a clean energy, the citizens' rights, equality, democracy, the respect of rule of law, the role of the EU on the international scene, and as it was said, respect for all. Now, this reflects also the unity and the strength of our political family with all the governments, the commissioners, the main actors in the European Parliament, in the different parts of our continent, being it at the local level, at the regional level, where we have so many players and actors of the change and the transformation of Europe. Now we're going to present the resolution, but before introducing the topic, I would like to say already to the delegates, because as you know, it's COVID time, we had many restrictions, so unfortunately we do not have the participation as we would have expected. Usually a PES event is about 400, 500 people. We are way less in this room today. We have the delegates watching us. I would like to say to the delegates that they can already start casting their votes. Votes is open, they can start voting, but now I have the pleasure to invite many people on stage, actually, many people. All these people that will come are really key players of the family. They are either chair of our thematic networks. I really would like to thank the chair of the thematic networks, because it's a lot of work that they do. We meet 2, 3, 4 times a year with all party representatives to discuss about the different issues. And we have also the leaders of the member organization of the PES. So let me call on stage, and I would call them. So we have Agnes Jungerius. Agnes is the chair of the Social Europe Network. Thank you, Agnes. I would like to call Enrico Rossi. Enrico is a representative of the PES group in the Committee of Region. He is vice president of our committee, of our group, sorry. We have also Maria Joao Rodriguez. She is the chair of the PES Financial and Economic Network. Welcome, Maria Joao. We have also Javi Lopez. Javi, welcome. He is the chair of a Climate Change, Energy and Environment Network. Welcome, Javi. I'd like to call also back on stage Tania Fayon, because Tania Fayon is also party leader, but also chair of the PES Democracy Network. I would like to call Zita Gourmay. Come Zita on stage. Zita is the president of PES Women. I'd like to call back Alicia Holmes as the president of YES, the Young European Socialists. Camila Garfias also, who's the president of Rainbow Rose, the LGBTI organization of the PES. Also called Jos from the European Socialist Senior Organization, ESO, welcome. I'd like to apologize also Kati Piri, who was the chair of the Foreign Policy Network, but she is held in The Hague in the parliament, and also Karina Olsson, who is the chair of the PES Migration and Integration Network. So all these people are really key actors in the PES. So thanks to them, thanks to you. So you see all the people that are really kind of the engine, I would say, of PES documents all over the years. We have done many publications. Just come here. Oh, yes, go ahead. Go. Yes, we have many publications that we publish over the years, and these are the people that are preparing it. So really, thank to them. So I would start, and I would follow the order of this long document, the 10 pages resolution. We'll start with Agnes. Agnes, you are, as I said already, the chair of the PES Social Europe Network, but you are also an MEP. You are a trade unionist, a fighter for Social Europe. So please tell us what for you is the key elements for Social Europe in this resolution.
I think it has already been mentioned before. It was Steven Löfven who pushed for the Gothenburg Summit. It was Antonia Costa who made this conference in Porto on the action plan, and now I think it's our job to put flesh on the bones of this social pillar, and we are doing this at the moment via indeed pushing for higher minimum wages, for working on the platform workers who are at the moment totally misclassified as self-employed and working in very poor working conditions. We have been pushing, already also mentioned by, for instance, Alicia, the issue of homelessness and income inequality. Young people, I think our ambitions on the social fields are high, but I can also see that by working very well together inside our family, with the ministers, with the commissioners, with the people in the parliament and the people in the different parties, we make progress. And I think here we should say, let's also enjoy that we were able to change the rhetoric and change the policies to investment in people, and to indeed make everyone say we should leave no one behind, and then further push for, if you say that we should leave no one behind, then we have to change the policies to protect the people. And I think it's very important that this is on paper and that we take the lead in this fight.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Thank you. It's, as you said, an important change in Europe for the 2008 crisis. The wages were pushed down. Now we see the different approach and protecting works and protecting good wages for workers in Europe, thanks to also our governments and the new Commission. I'm turning to Enrico Rossi, PES Group in the Committee of the Region. You are Vice President. You are also elected in the City Council of Florence. We know that cities and locally elected people play a very important role in our family, and we see also that cities and regions played a role also during the pandemic crisis. We know that health is one of the major issues for us, for our family. It was said during the debate. So please tell us a word on the health policy, how important it is in the documents.
Sì, io intanto ho visto scorrere nei titoli di presentazione che il socialismo, i socialisti democratici sono a favore di un accesso universale ai servizi sanitari. Questo mi pare il punto da mettere al centro della nostra politica per allargare la competenza europea su questa materia e per estendere a tutti i cittadini europei un diritto di accesso ai servizi sanitari uguale per tutti e tale da garantire la salute dei cittadini europei. Io penso che su questo tema l'Europa si è trovata inizialmente in difficoltà perché questa materia appunto era riservata agli Stati nazionali, poi ha saputo recuperare e ho trovato di grande importanza anche le parole della Presidente von der Leyen che ha rimarcato la necessità di un'Europa della sanità, dicendo che questo è il momento. Nella nostra visione del futuro non può che esserci questo pilastro. Questo pilastro per noi è fondamentale, fa parte del modello sociale europeo e io credo che al di là delle differenze tra i vari paesi ci sono sistemi basati sul modello assicurativo, ci sono anche sistemi basati invece sulla fiscalità generale. È importante per noi batterci per l'accesso ai servizi sanitari da parte dei nostri cittadini. Vorrei anche aggiungere un altro punto. La pandemia ha prodotto una forte domanda dei cittadini verso l'Europa. La prima reazione anche degli enti locali è stata quella di chiudersi e poi abbiamo capito che solo insieme potevamo risolvere i problemi. Bisogna forse andare anche oltre, bisogna diventare noi convinti dell'obiettivo della vaccinazione di tutti gli esseri umani, perché abbiamo capito che altrimenti le varianti si riproducono e che nel mondo globalizzato, finché non ci sarà una vaccinazione universale, la nostra salute sarà a rischio. Penso che sia da sottolineare anche con forza gli obiettivi ambientali, gli obiettivi della digitalizzazione, tutto quello che fa parte del nostro programma, del socialismo europeo, entro cui sta anche il tema della salute, i determinanti della salute, il miglioramento delle condizioni di vita, il benessere, un benessere diffuso, sono aspetti fondamentali che garantiscono la salute dei cittadini e abbiamo tutti visto come questa sia importante anche sotto il profilo economico. Verrebbe quasi da dire, anzi io sono sicuro di questo, che i finanziamenti, i soldi spesi in sanità sono spesi bene anche per l'economia e non solo perché la sanità con le tecnologie, con gli investimenti può essere un volano di sviluppo e di buona occupazione, ma anche perché senza una popolazione in salute non ci può essere neppure economia. Questo mi pare un punto fondamentale. Grazie.
Thank you Enrico, for really underlining the role of universal access to health, as it is really one of the key priority of our political family, but also the reaction that we had, saying that it's true and that we have demonstrated that it's all together that will be stronger to react to the pandemic, and that it has created also a new approach regarding Europe for many citizens, that they've seen that Europe is active and can deliver an answer in case of big crisis like the pandemic crisis. I'm looking now and turning to Maria Joao Rodriguez. Maria Joao, as I explained, is the chair of the FEN, the Financial and Economic Network, but is also the president of the FEPS. FEPS is the Foundation for European Progressive Studies. Is one of the really key players in the family about many studies that you are preparing. And Maria Joao has been a long-time actor in EU policy as Minister for Employment in Portugal, as an MEP. You have been active in many issues, like from the Gothenburg Summit to the Lisbon Treaty, many things. So thank you, Maria. Maria, I'm turning to you regarding the economic dimension. We know that we are in a specific moment in Europe about an economic crisis due to the pandemic, what kind of recovery we can have and we want to have, and all this, as it was not enough, all this also in a time of a digital revolution where we need also to prepare our economy and to invest to be ready for our people, for our citizens. So Maria, on this field, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yonek. A pleasure to join all of you. Look, what we want is not just a recovery. We want to have a transformation of our economic and social model, dealing with the best of the green transition, the digital revolution. But there is a problem here, is that we just push in this direction. Social inequalities, regional inequalities, and gender inequality will increase. So we progressives, we should have strong action to prevent these social inequalities to come. And this is the promise of the European social pillar. We want all citizens of Europe, men and women, to benefit from the same fundamental social rights. This should remain our compass to drive this great transformation. But then we have a problem, because so far we need to recognize that we don't have all the necessary financial means to make this happen. So that's why in our resolution we are calling for reform of the Stability and Growth Pact. We need to turn it into a pact for sustainable development. And this is a quite important change. We are a family, we have responsible behavior on finance, but we want to support sustainable development. And secondly, we know that national budgets should be supported by a stronger European budget. Look, we had an historical step forward with the recent created the Recovery Fund. This is extremely important. For the first time, we have this high solidarity, as our family was decisive for this qualitative leap. But we need to make this permanent, to count on a long-term European budget to support investment needs and to support our social pillar. And then we can ask, where are the resources for this? Well, I can tell you there are many resources. Our problem is not lack of resources. They are somewhere. We need to go to the new sources of taxation and to bring fair taxation and to fight against tax avoidance. Well, we should put more taxes, not of course on the citizens at all. We should go to those who pollute, to those who make financial speculation, and to those who make extra profits, the big corporations benefiting from the single market, and particularly the big digital platforms. But this brings me to the big issue of the digital transformation. Because look, we are dealing with something which is changing everything in our life. We feel this every day. The way we work, the way we live, the way we have access to education, the way we take democratic decisions. Everything is being changed by the digital revolution. But we should ask, who is in the cockpit? And let me tell you, so far, the big digital platforms are the ones in the cockpit. And Europe is lagging behind the United States and China. And that's why we progressives, in our resolution, we call for a European way to drive the digital revolution with the progressives in the cockpit. This is a major historical task for progressives in Europe. So we have very clear ideas about that. First of all, yes, we know that the digital revolution can bring many good products and services. We are positive about this. But we don't want to pay this with our personal and private data. This is the wrong business model. We want to take democratic control of this. Secondly, we want everyone to benefit from the digital revolution. This is about skills, but skills for everybody against the digital divide. Third, we know that many jobs can be created, but we want good jobs. So that's why we want to regulate the working conditions in the digital economy. The platform work, the telework must be regulated. And fourth, let's use this digital revolution to make the best of our public services, of our welfare system. Yes, we can deliver much better healthcare access to education, public service in general. This is a big opportunity for progressives, but again, we need to change the technologies which are being used, particularly the so-called artificial intelligence, because this is not neutral. We have artificial intelligence which can be conservative or progressive. And we want a human-centered artificial intelligence to deliver better goods and services for all. So this is a major long-term task, but in our resolution we are announcing this. That's it.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you also for the good work that we are doing for so many years and looking forward to continue. And I'm turning to Javi Lopez, who is the chair of the PS Energy Climate Change Environment Network, a very important network that meets quite a lot of times every year with a lot of people, actually, with a lot of NGOs and representative of our member parties. And you are also a member of the European Parliament now with lots of experience now in the Parliament. Now, Javi, you are a fighter in your work in the Parliament, in the PES and back in Spain for a just ecological transition. And that is clearly one of the key dimensions of this resolution. It has been mentioned several times today about sustainability and a just transition. So now the floor is yours to tell us what really are the priorities that we have been identifying.
Well, thank you, Yannick. Thank you very much for organizing everything, for PES organizing this council. Well, we are ending the year, and it's time also to look what happened. And what happened during this year is that we saw in Europe extreme weather events with dramatic consequences. We saw torrential rains, hot and dry summer. And what we learned during this year, and probably during all the pandemics, is how disruptive could be something that comes from the nature to our way of life. And this is one of the biggest lessons learned during this time, and we should use this lesson to fight climate change. And it's the same that COVID-19. What we have to use? First, science. Science, and what it's telling the science, we saw during these years the IPCC report saying clearly that the worst is yet to come, that we have to act immediately to decarbonize our economy to fight and minimize the consequence of the climate change. And for this reason, during this year, we saw the EU, by the lead of Franz Timmermans, with clear commitments to be a continent neutral climate and lead this fight in the international community. But we need science, but it's not only science. We need science and we need politics. And the kind of politics that only our political family can provide. Ensure a decarbonization, an ecological transition that is fair, with a soul, with a social dimension, and that ensure that citizens are put in the center of our policies. We know that the cost of the ecological transition it's less than the cost of the climate inaction. But we will have to manage a cost. And for this reason, it's so important to mobilize resources, use our fiscal tools to ensure green jobs, investments, and green economy. We know that are already linked our socioeconomic crisis, our ecological crisis, and our democratic crisis that we see in the Western world. And for this reason, our political answer and our policies should be comprehensive and go hand by hand with the social dimension and the green dimension. For this reason, we have three clear commitments. First, a full implementation of the European Green Deal and their legislation, Fit for 55 package and the climate law. Secondly, ensure this fair and social transition, guaranteeing targeting poverty and fighting against climate change and fighting against inequality hand by hand. And third, ensure financial resources, public and private resources, to improve our economic growth. Basically, a truly green social agenda that serves for funding a real, better future for all.
Thank you very much, Javi. Thank you for your presentation. And again, underlining how deep in the priority of the PES a just transition is. And I'm turning to Zita Gurmai, a well-known member of our family. Zita is member of the parliament in Hungary, has been MEP, but is also the president of PES Women, and therefore a fighter for gender equality. But you know that you are also in a difficult situation, not you, but Hungary, and we are really supporting you in the fight that you are leading against the government of Orban. But Zita, now, our resolution, there is a big contribution of PES Women about gender equality, and I give you the floor to present this part.
Thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be here, and I miss so many of you who cannot be here. Because I would say it would be so great to be all together. So I just would like to send a very strong message all those who cannot be here, and especially for women who has been the front runners of the pandemic. So let's have a clap hands for these amazing women. Thank you very much. And of course, as you know, as a progressive family, we are very, very proud to be at the forefront of the fight for gender equality, and this is our job, gender mainstream, all the document of PES. And of course, we have visionary women organizations and many strong feminist leaders to show around. Just look how many we are. And then, of course, what is absolutely important that with this resolution, we are demonstrating our engagement. We, the PS, are demonstrating that Europe must be a feminist continent where women's rights are fully guaranteed and protected, and where institutions and actors are ready to advance progressive ideas for gender equality. Of course, the pandemic showed more clearly than perhaps even before the essential contribution of women make in society, but also how easily we are left behind economically, socially, and politically, especially when conservative forces are in power. And of course, we have a conservative forces in Hungary, and I'm very thankful for Katerina Varley, who made a very clear picture what is going on in Hungary. But of course, in this resolution, we are calling especially for Europe to guarantee to access to fundamental rights by protecting and promoting women's full range of sexual and reproductive health and rights, and by ending all forms of gender-based violence. And of course, how can we achieve this? We need a bold European directive on gender-based violence, Helena Dalli spoke about. And of course, the full ratification of the Istanbul Convention and the enlargement of the definition of EU hate crimes to include those based on gender and sex identity. We must also close the gender pay gap. Of course, some of you already spoke about between women and men, be it in the labor market, education, the digital, Maria, my friend, spoke about, green transition, pay and pension in decision-making and representation, as well as when it comes to work-life balance and the division of unpaid care work. We must aim for structural change towards a feminist economic system to put well-being of people and planet at the center. And I'm very, very happy that the Finnish Prime Minister made a very clear commitment, Sanna Marin, for women's rights and gender equality. We need to follow her. And of course, as a progressive family, we have been at the forefront of this type of policies for many years. So we did not start it yesterday. This is in our DNS. But this also means women's equal rights and opportunities through a gender-sensitive post-pandemic recovery and through the full implementation of the EU Gender Equality Strategy 2020-2025 put forward by Helena Dalli, our great commissioner. We must make gender budgeting and gender mainstreaming the norm. And of course, this whole resolution is a great example of gender mainstreaming of all policies, policy areas, and I'm very thankful because it was not only PS Women. We have more and more feminist leaders who has been on the board with us. But we need to see it everywhere. A feminist Europe is a Europe which fair, sustainable, and of course respectful. Fair and respectful towards equal opportunities for women and men. Sustainable because we all benefit from the enormous contribution women can make to the society if patriarchal structures, sexism and discrimination are eradicated. Sustainable gender equality today so that that coming generations full enjoy equal rights and opportunities tomorrow. We need to fight for them on an ongoing basis. And now it's time to implement those provisions. PS, with the leadership of Sergei Stanishev and our political family, is ready to walk to talk and to act for women in all their diversity. So let's make a strong resolution, and thank you all for the great contribution.
Thank you, Zita, and thanks to PS Women for all the work and contribution that you are doing in the PS work, clearly for all over the years, and we wish you all the best in the election next year. We're with you. Now I'm turning to Tanja Fajon, the leader of the SD Slovenia, next Prime Minister of Slovenia, but also the chair of the Democracy Network in the PS, and therefore you have been working a lot about promoting democracy, defending democracy, ensuring the respect of the rule of law, and also migration and migration policy in Europe. And it's an important part of this resolution, so we're glad to hear you to present that part of our council resolution. Tanja.
Thank you, Yonik. I see that our time has just expired, so I will be short. Since we already talked lengthily on the democracy, on the rule of law, I would like to point out that we certainly have to put people at the core of our policies. I was talking before about the lack of trust, so the confidence, respect. We have now the debate on the future of Europe. It is a very important debate, but we have to engage and empower our citizens. We really have to give them the tools that they are part of our decision-making process. They don't feel yet. We have to empower young generation because they have to decide about their future. So this conference is extremely important. What kind of European Union we want to see in 10, 20 years from now on. Then the next is, of course, the rule of law and democracy. We already talked about applying the rule of law conditionality mechanism. I think this is very important. I said before, it's a last resort because cutting money to the governments, it's a sensitive issue because we cannot affect our citizens. We have to deliver our results, so whether it's infrastructure, whether hospitals, whether educational system, research, science, and so on. So when we cut the funds, we have to make sure that it's the government that we hit, and the government is responsible to nevertheless cover important projects for our citizens. And the last on migration, because this is a topic that I strongly believe no politics can win on it. And it's an extremely manipulated topic in Europe. But it is a challenge for all of us. There is no single or no simple answer. But we have, as a Europe or globally, tackle it together. And our governments today have no trust how to establish a common migration and asylum policies. And therefore, Schengen today is a hostage of not having common migration and asylum policies. Schengen is at stake. We just got a reform which is applying, I would say, even more restrictive measures at our internal border, which is putting our freedom of movement, which is the most tangible project of our European integration, under the serious question. So we have to restore the confidence among the governments, and we have to take care that all our policies on migration puts at core human values, human approach. That means we have to protect legally and morally the right to the asylum. And this is not happening, and the governments are not taking the responsibility, and it's us to take this responsibility, because Europe has always been and will always be a continent of migration.
Thank you very much, Tanya, for this very clear explanation about our proposals and our vision on this important topic. And I'm turning now to Alicia. Alicia, you are the president of YES. YES has an important contribution to drafting this resolution with several amendments, proposals, and topics. So I give you the floor to present also the young people dimension in the document.
Thanks again, Yonek, for giving me the floor. And I will be really brief because time is running fast. So I would like to highlight three main ideas that are related to children, to young people, and also to the intergenerational solidarity. So first of all, I think that we need to make the child union a reality, which should be fully implemented at with the European Child Guarantee. And this has to be used as a mechanism to eradicate the child poverty, to ensure access to basic services while tackling the stigmatization of our children just because of their social background. So this situation we need to move and work on it really hard. The second topic, as mentioned, is regarding the young people. That, as I said before in my first speech, that should be in the center of the recovery. So quality job, decent wages, and effective access to social protection are the best answer to this crisis for young people. And we want also the youth guarantee to be part and to be permanent, a component for the EU's action, social action. And the last one, regarding the intergenerational solidarity, I think that the COVID-19 pandemic has also highlighted the need to include a special strategy for older people to provide them with an appropriate care, to prevent loneliness and to ensure easy access to public services. So we want this intergenerational solidarity to be at the core of the green and digital transitions in order to not leave anyone behind.
Thank you, Alicia, and it's clearly our objective not to leave anyone behind. I'm turning now to Jos Bertrand. Jos, you are a member of Reuters party here in Belgium. You are also locally elected in a district of Brussels, but you're also one of the leaders of ESO, the European Senior Socialist Organization, and you are always very active in all our meetings and all our networks, and also in the drafting of this resolution. So please, about the role of the elderly and the place of the elderly to live in dignity in Europe, Jos, you have the floor.
Oui, merci Yonek. Et merci aussi à tous les participants pour les échanges qu'on a eus. Oui, pour les aînés, c'est très important. On a subi aussi la crise Corona. Et on est très content de cette résolution parce qu'on voit aussi que les politiques qui doivent déployer vraiment ce changement pour le climat, ce changement qui doit aussi être social, que là-bas, il y a la dimension pour une amitié vers tous les âges. C'est très important. Et Alicia, vous avez aussi déjà parlé de cette solidarité intergénérationnelle. On va le faire ensemble, les jeunes et les vieux. On va faire des activités ensemble. Et c'est très important de souligner cela parce qu'il faut être ensemble. Et surtout aussi, c'est l'accès aux droits. Nous avons vu au début de la pandémie comment les anciens étaient dans les maisons de repos. L'accès aux droits est très important pour tout le monde, pour tous. L'accès aussi aux services sociaux. Mais maintenant, Sergei, et je m'adresse à vous et à Yonek, il faut réaliser ce qu'on a dit. Il faut le faire. Et la crise pandémique a démontré que la solidarité et le respect est très nécessaire. Elle est très nécessaire, mais ce n'est pas une évidence. On le voit maintenant aussi que ça commence à durer très longtemps. Donc il faut gagner des élections. Comme nos camarades du SPD l'ont fait, et comme on attend des Portugais qui le feront aussi en janvier. C'est très important de gagner des élections. Et nous, les vieux, nous, les anciens, on sera là. On sera là avec vous dans les rues, avec les jeunes. Mais nous demandons une chose, c'est aussi d'être, comme anciens, comme seniors, d'être reconnus comme part entière de ce mouvement et d'être considérés comme une part entière de nos partis. Et c'est ça aussi que nous demandons. Donc nous serons avec vous, et nous serons avec vous pour lutter pour nos valeurs de solidarité et de respect. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup Jos, merci, et évidemment on est ensemble pour ces combats et aussi pour les futurs combats électoraux qui nous attendent dans les différents pays. I'm turning now to Camila Garcia. Hello Camila. You are the president of Rainbow Rose. Rainbow Rose is the LGBT organization of the PS, and you are facing yourself the situation in Europe, which is in some countries is not easy because we see the backlash of some conservative right-wing governments about equality and against equality and people's rights. So I would give you the floor to mention and to present the part on equality and rights that is in the document and in the resolution. And thanks again for the role that Rainbow Rose is playing in the PS activities.
Thank you so much, Jonik. It's kind of hard to speak after so great contributions, but I think it's an honor to be here and to be able to present the common work of the Party of European Socialists, of the member parties and organizations. I think this resolution is a very, very strong verdict of what we stand for. The Party of European Socialists is the party of hope. We are the party that has a vision for the future of the people on this continent. So I'm really, really happy that it also has a very strong angle on equality, on human rights, and especially on LGBTIQ rights. We want a Europe that not only accepts diversity, but that knows that through diversity, we as a society thrive. And as socialists and social democrats and Labour Party members, we will always fight for that. That's our historic task. And with this resolution, all of us commit for equal rights. We commit to LGBTIQ rights all over the continent, but we not just commit to words and phrases. We commit to actually do something. We commit to implement policies. We commit to implement tools that will protect our rights, not just in one country, but in all of the European Union countries. And that's what we have to fight for, and that's what we lay the basis in with this resolution. I'm proud to have been able to contribute to this work with all of you together, and I'm very proud to be able to present this part. Thank you, and I think that's the basis, equality and human rights for the future of Europe. Thank you.
Indeed, it's the future of Europe. Thank you, Camila. Now we have a very last intervention about the last chapter of our resolution, an important one because it's about international dimension. And as a socialist, social democrats, we are internationalists. So clearly it's an important element of the action of our political family. And I would ask Maria Joao Rodriguez, as also the president of FEPS, please to present that. And I want to also, if he's with us online, apologize Connie Reuter, the coordinator of the Progressive Alliance, that cannot be with us this morning. But Maria, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we are internationalists, and with the Progressive Alliance, we have done great work. And Connie Reuter is the coordinator. So I want to say something about what we have inserted in this resolution to change the way the world is being governed. Because yes, we are worried. On one hand, we are coping with existential challenges, the pandemics, the climate change, poverty, increasing social inequalities, the drive via authoritarian regimes. There are many reasons of concern. On the other hand, our global governance system, we need to recognize, is too weak, too divided, too polarized. We have a multipolar world. On the top of these, we have the competition between the United States and China. So we want to change the state of the affairs. Look, we greet this big shift in the United States, replacing Trump with Biden. This is great. But we know this is not enough. We know that what is necessary is to have a new multilateral system more effective, more inclusive, and fairer multilateral system. And we have the privilege to have at the helm of the United Nations someone from us, Antonio Guterres, who was elected with a common agenda for the next 5 years, putting at the center our progressive call for a new global deal. Yes, we want a social contract, but we also want a new global deal for the entire world. And with very concrete actions to support developing countries. First of all, full access to vaccination. Secondly, real support for them to move in the green transition. Third, to implement sustainable development goals and to tackle all kinds of discrimination. So these are big pleas included in this new global deal. Now, what can European progressives do about this? Look, Europe remains a powerful actor to change global governance. That's one of the reasons we want to have European project more ambitious for the future, our vision for the future. What can we do for this? We want to have a multilateral system able to change the global rules, to organize world solidarity, and this means that Europe can play with important instruments, the trade policy, the support to human rights, the support to democracy against authoritarian regimes. And a first call will come now with the call for sustainable development goals to be implemented everywhere. We have in our resolution special commitments towards our big partners, Africa, Latin America, but in fact, we Europeans, most of all, we need to build up a coalition, a progressive forces with states, but most of all citizens, because citizens, they want to have a global governance with a progressive direction. This is so clear. So this is our resolution.
Thank you. So I think that we can give a big round of applause and to thank all the speakers that has presented this resolution, from Jos, Alicia, Javi, Agnes, Tania, Zita, Maria Joao, Camila, Enrico. Really, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. You have done an excellent work in preparing this resolution, this document. This document will be online as soon as it is adopted. So I would really call and ask the delegates that have not voted yet to task their vote so that we can present the final result in a minute with Sergei Stanichev, the president of the PS. So please conclude your vote so that we can finally adopt the resolution. And before that, I would make a presentation of one achievement that the PS wanted to have for this council. As you have seen, one of the pillars of our event is about sustainability. Sustainability, it means that we have to put our acts together and that we have to be coherent with our policy. It's something, the fight for climate action, strong climate policies that we do in our parties at local level, regional level, national level, European level. With Franz Timmermans in charge of the European Green Deal, with the S&D group, with the adoption of the European climate law recently. So what we wanted to achieve is to have a sustainable event. As you can see here, we wanted to have an event where we could compensate our CO2 emission. And I will present you how we achieved that and what was the methodology that we adopted. First, we wanted really to be in line with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. That was clearly one of our objectives, to be in line with the 2030 objective. And for that, we needed to be in tune and to respect the Biosphere Sustainable Lifestyle Method, which is an international methodology that is well known and accepted, that delivers in case that you manage a certificate through an international NGO, then you can be certified sustainable event. So what we have done is that we have calculated the total footprint of this event. It means that we have measured the CO2 emission arising for our activities, meaning from the suppliers, the participants. So as you can see, for the PS Council 2021, our carbon emission was extremely low. It was 1.97 tons CO2, which is considered as very low because, and it recognizes, we have seen that through sources, that an event of this size usually is more about 10 tons of CO2 emission. So we have succeeded this year to be 5 times lower than an average event. So we can say that we are very proud of that. We have made sure that everything in our organization and preparation was sustainable. I have to say, and I underline that this building, for example, has only renewable energy. It's also something that we want to underline and also why we are here. The third part, once we have made that calculation, is what do we do as a next step is to offset the carbon emission that we had. So the CO2 emission, if we just take, I would say, the people in the room and the number of CO2 emissions, we would have planted 10 trees. 10 trees was enough to compensate our CO2 emission. But we thought that it's better to use PES as a normal event, as a normal council with 300, 500 people, so the normal size of a PES council, which would have meant 500 trees that would be planted. And that's the choice that we did. So we would take part in a project in Spain of restoration of a forest. It's Valle Iruelas. It's close by to Madrid, Extremadura, Castellón. And so there, 500 trees will be planted thanks to the PES with an NGO project, and we are extremely proud to be able to do that and to have a carbon neutral event. And the good news is that we have heard, and I would like to call Sergei also to proceed on stage, we have received the certificate demonstrating that our event was carbon neutral. So please, Sergei, it's a pleasure that we have this. Thank you so much. And I would really like to thank all the teams that was involved in the preparation of this council to make sure that we have managed to be a carbon neutral event and with a nice project in Spain with 500 trees that will be planted. And I take advantage to give the floor now to Sergei to conclude. I'm calling Sa.
Thank you. I just heard that we have to wait for a few more seconds for the last votes to come in.
Ah, okay, so we haven't the full votes, but then I'm calling Giacomo.
Yes.
Come just joining for the closing, Giacomo. Giacomo is Deputy Secretary General of the PS. He should have been part of this event, but...
You will not have to speak. Don't worry.
Be with us.
Okay.
Sergei, maybe you can wrap up the day. All the panels we heard, the whole family here, a big group of family.
Yes, indeed. Well, first of all, thanks very much to all the participants in today's debate. I think it was very fruitful and very interesting, and I would like to thank all people who are watching us and who are still watching us, because our task was to communicate in the first place. Second, I think thanks to the resolution, which is now in the process of voting, we are having very good compass for the next year, which will be a very important one. We started by celebrating great victories which we had in a number of countries, especially the elections in Germany, but also we had very successful local elections in Portugal, in Italy. We had a great victory also in Norway. By the way, we have 2 more governments now in the last month with social democratic participation in Romania and in Bulgaria. So this is all increasing our possibilities. But also for the next year, we shall have many challenges as a political family. And the point is that we have to use the momentum. I think we can all feel it with our skin, that also due to this crisis with COVID and the economic and social consequences, people are hearing much more and listening to social democratic progressive messages about justice, about social protection, social networks, about equal opportunities. Everybody could feel how important the welfare is for every individual in our union. The accessible healthcare, the accessible and good quality education, the networks for people who are losing jobs and need protection. This is all really important for their daily lives. And we, Social Democrats, are the ones who can deliver on this. This is why I think there is a greater interest and greater possibilities. And I think it's great that today we are drafting also our policies for the next period, both as principles, which are very clear, like just here behind me, but also as concrete tools and actions. And next year we shall have a number of elections. We all supported and clapped to Antonio Costa for the general elections in Portugal. We shall be supporting all elections which will be coming. In Hungary, for the first time in many years, there is a chance that the government of Fidesz will be toppled by a broad democratic coalition. We shall have elections in Malta. We shall have presidential elections in France. We shall have general elections in Sweden. And in many other countries, there will be challenges and elections, and we have to mobilize and to use this wave of progressive thinking, of social instinct among the citizens to win the elections, because in the end, it was already mentioned today, you need to win elections in order to deliver, to have the means to do what you want to do in order to improve life of all citizens. This is what our family is about, and I believe that today we made a very good step forward in preparing us for the next fights. So, do we have already the result?
I'm just checking with someone to give us the note that we have the vote in. Yes, it's almost there, it's getting in there.
But by the way, I would like to use this opportunity also to thank the PS Secretariat, all people from the PS who are working hard to prepare this event. And also to thank all the parties and the sister organizations and the partners of PS in drafting this resolution. Because I don't know what will be the outcome, but our task was to make it both as consensual as possible and at the same time bold enough. Not to go to the lowest possible denominator, but to have a really bold vision about the future. The time is demanding. You cannot continue with business as usual. You need strong policies, as we did with sustainable development, as we did with the well-being society, with the Green Deal, but exactly a social, just Green Deal, and many other policies which we developed together. And I hope that this will be reflected also in the vote.
It's a very complicated result. I think you have to announce unanimous.
Yeah, unanimous.
Okay, so I hear that the resolution was voted. You will be surprised by the outcome. Unanimously. Congratulations and thanks to all members of our family. I think it was a great event today, and we shall keep on doing events like this, which will mobilize us and make us stronger to deliver. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sergei. Thank you for watching at home.
And thanks to our moderators, Jonek and Sar. They were at stage all the time. Great.
It was a pleasure to have everybody here. It was a pleasure to speak to everybody at home in Europe. And we see you back next year. And we wish you all very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Let me take you now to Parliament. The Majority Leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osachi Mensah-Bonsu, says he's surprised by the public backlash faced by government regarding the introduction of an e-levy in the 2022 budget. The revenue measure, which government says will rake in more than 8 billion Ghana cedis, has been severely criticized, with the minority in Parliament calling for its complete withdrawal. Now, speaking at a media engagement at the Information Ministry, the MP for Swami explained that revenue accruing from the e-levy will be critical in funding roads and other key programs of the government.
It is surprising, subsequent to this, that government now steps forward to say that, look, the cost of borrowing has escalated, no thanks to COVID, and the fact also that our debt to GDP ratio has escalated, again, no thanks to COVID. So we must look inwards to mobilize resources from the country to develop, to build our roads, to build clinics, health facilities, to build educational facilities, to deliver potable water,